Yo, what's up? I hope my mic is working. Sometimes that shit is muted right off the rip. But hey, it is a Friday. Happy Friday. What's up, y'all? It is your boy Game Time Ty. We got Nico Dobbs. We got Zuthas in the chat already. We got Rasha coming in today. What's good, Rasha? Can you hear us? Can you hear us? We got Rasha on the phone, on the phone. What's good?
Absolutely. What's going on, guys? What's up, Game Time Ty, Game Time Nation? Happy
Hey.
Friday, man.
Yes, sir.
Hope
Friday.
everybody's doing well, man. It's my new favorite day of the week. I'm ready to talk some fantasy, and I'm excited.
Let's go. I'm stoked too. Nico, I'm gonna have to look at your chat in a sec, but appreciate you to see you, man. Yeah, hey, great to see you as well, man. Zuthez, great to see you as always, bro. You need to practice at the 9 and the 10. Okay, and we will do a mock draft today after we break down the divisions. I want to at least get through the divisions first and then break down the mock, and then mock. And then, you know, obviously, if we have time for some other stuff later, we can do more as well. But yeah, man, great Friday. A lot of news between when we last streamed, which was on Tuesday. So I'm looking forward to discussing all this stuff for sure. And maybe we can have a little bit of a chuckle that Debo is returning to the 49ers, you know, on a 1 year, $7 million deal or something. So it's better than nothing. And if Debo looks in shape, which it seems like that's the word on the street, then, you know, maybe he actually could have a nice year with the 49ers this year. We'll see. But yeah, Rasha, is there any big news that kind of maybe wants to jump off the plate, I guess, first in your mind? Like, what are you looking at in terms of news that we can jump right into, other than Tony Romo being placed on leave by CBS Sports following a DUI, which I don't want to even get too much into that, but we could talk about it a little bit, but not that that's what you wanted to discuss. But is there anything maybe that is worth bringing up first on the news front while I read this chat?
Sure, yeah, man, it is unfortunate for Romo to go down that road, have that DWI. I really enjoyed him on the CBS telecast. He's going to be replaced with Watt, JJ Watt. So, that could be interesting. But as far as fantasy relevant, it's kind of funny because a lot of the newsworthy stories actually were relevant to the NFC South. I know you mentioned the Debo Samuel. He could be fantasy viable. It's the number 2 option there. Pearsall looks like he's going to be out. For the foreseeable future.
That's tough.
But some things that I did notice was the Olave. He got him an extension. Kraft, he was activated from the PUP list. And a lot of guys that, were kind of banged up, for the exception of Alec Pierce, are actually looking healthy in camp. But really, the Olave and Kraft, those are the 2 things that pop off the page. And obviously, the Gibbs and Robinson's lack of a contract situation.
I definitely want to use that as foreshadowing for our final team that we do which will be the 49ers, or sorry, not the 49ers, the Falcons, right? So we'll talk about Bijan and then Gibbs as we go through the Falcons. But yeah, no, that's a lot of news, man. That's a lot of news. So Nico Dobbs is saying Tony Romo was the worst commentator in the NFL anyways. Oh shit. Like Tom Brady, just why are you even trying when you don't have the sports journalism background and analysis? I'll give Tony Romo a little bit of credit that he was actually better than Tom Brady was. As much of a football genius as Tom Brady might be, you're right, he wasn't cut out for the sports broadcasting role. Tony Romo, on the other hand, had his moments. I thought he was charming at times. Maybe he didn't have that professional background, but he had enough of the instincts, maybe, or just, I guess, enough charisma to sort of get him across the finish line in some aspects. And obviously just the football know-how, right? The knowledge, little nuggets of information, tidbits of knowledge that he could impart on the viewers, I enjoyed. So maybe he wasn't the greatest commentator or an analyst, but like at the end of the day, he was fun in a way, and that was why he was given as much of a leash as he probably had. But once you start doing shit like this and start, getting pulled over and being caught on tape with like the most insane DUI, like field test or whatever you want to call it, like you're probably pushing the limits a little too much. But as a Cowboys fan, obviously he's so far removed from the Cowboys that you can't really tie him to this franchise. But like, do you feel a little bad about it, Rasha, as a Cowboys fan, just seeing Tony Romo go down like that, or like?
Yeah, I mean, I was one of the Tony Romo truthers. I mean, just like any other Cowboys quarterback of recent memory, you know, Dak Prescott included, you know, he took a lot of backlash, you know, for his on-field play, you know, being labeled as a choke artist. But, you know, I really appreciate his time there in Dallas. I mean, he played with a good vigor, fun, you know, a lot of fun. And he was fun to watch. It was a really exciting time. So, yeah, I mean, I hate it for him for sure.
Damn. Well, I mean, he's placed on leave, so technically he's not like fired or removed entirely, but he probably isn't long for that CBS role at least. Who knows? Maybe he'll get picked up by like another network down the line. But okay. All right, let's talk about some actual football news. We kind of brushed a little bit on the Deebo Samuel thing. I guess it's worth actually clicking into this and seeing what's good here. So obviously Ricky PJ, his injury, his right knee flared up. They actually, I heard a report or like a quote. Nico Dobbs saying he won't be missed, Rasha. That's funny.
That's so funny.
Dang, bro, that's harsh. That's harsh, man. I don't want to give Tony Romo that much shade, but I hear you, Nico. I hear you. But no, I heard word on the street was San Francisco, amidst all of the turmoil surrounding their injury issues over the last, not even just one season, but 2, maybe even 3+ seasons, right? Where you have 2, 3, 4+ starter caliber, all-star, kind of not, all-star, but like, Pro Bowl type players, and questions need to be answered, right? This team that Rasha mentioned a couple streams back dumped a bunch of money, millions and millions of dollars, into their training staff and totally revamping their entire training organization or training staff within this organization. I mean, maybe this was before, or sorry, maybe this was after that training staff upgrade. Yo, what's up, Walt? How you doing, man? Good to see you, man. Happy Friday. We're talking about the Deebo news. I'm sure you're just stoked to hear that Deebo's coming back on a 1-year deal to the 49ers. Baby, it's a reunion tour, baby. Let's go. But the word on the street was the 49ers the training staff was just like, yeah, no, Ricky's knee will heal on its own over the offseason. You know what I mean? They're just like taking it for granted that he's going to, maybe as a player, he should know how to rehab things on his own. I don't know if that's necessarily what they thought, but clearly it was the wrong choice. They should have, in my mind, been babysitting his knee the entire offseason. Like, what is your job if not to do that, as a training staff? Yeah, Pearsall never got healthy. Yeah, so it's like, it's not going to heal on its own. An injury that severe with a guy that does have a bit of an injury history, I would think if you're projecting he's going to be a big part of this offense for the future of this franchise, he's like the wide receiver 2 essentially, right? Maybe even the wide receiver 1. At one point, they thought maybe he could be that, but no, I don't think he ever truly was going to step up to that level. No disrespect to his talent or anything like that, but the fact that they're not taking it this seriously and they're like letting him kind of be left to his own devices. Again, not saying that Ricky Pearsall didn't know how to rehab his own knee, but like, why leave it up to him? Why give him sort of that room for error and not even blaming it on Ricky? It's the team's fault here, in my mind, that this is even popping up like this. So it doesn't matter though. Stribling looks great, and that's the silver lining. That's the silver Stribling lining. I tried to make something work there, but no, you're right. At least they have that going for them, but they still needed to do something like sign Deebo, right? That did make sense. It's a $7 million deal, I think, right? Yes, worth up to $7 million. So it's not even like, I think the $7 million is with incentives. So that's crazy. Yeah, and then also Christian Kirk has also missed recent training camp practices because of a strained calf, and that guy just, I don't know if he's going to be reliable anyways. He might have a good couple games or a stretch of games, but when we're talking about this offense, it's going to be hopefully Stribling, Kittle, Ricky PJ through the pass attack, and like it might be a handful of other characters. Who knows what they do? But Rasha, are you stoked about the Debo signing, or do you think that's a good thing? I'm in mind to think that I actually might pick up Debo. Obviously, they have Mike Evans still, but Debo could be a nice little back of draft snag because they just have a lot of rapport already. I mean, he's clearly someone they trust on this team. Maybe. I don't know. What do you think? Am I reading too much into that?
No, you're spot on, Ty. I mean, absolutely. I mean, he can easily be, especially with Kittle, easing his way back slowly. He can easily be the number 2 option here in this offense. He's a vet. I mean, this is a guy that can get 5-6 targets a game, until Kittle works his way back. But, for me, I was a little disappointed. It's good for the 49ers. It's good for them. But as far as fantasy purposes, I was on the Stribling bandwagon. I was looking to, snag him up, end of drafts.
Right.
And, he, unfortunately, he'll take a hit with the Debo signing.
Yeah. You're right. Stribling might take a hit. At least, they won't maybe have to rely on him as early on. So he might not be out of the gates like just a flex / wide receiver 2 on your roster. But, I don't think that makes anybody hesitate when they draft him, though. I think he's still going to go where he's going. Let's actually take a look at where he's going real quick just to verify.
I agree.
Yeah. I mean, we're already getting into the rankings of it all. But let's see. Stribling. I mean, Stribling's not even on people's boards. Like, obviously, this is, I think, a little bit unupdated. I think people are actually picking him up either in the back of drafts or, like, past the 12th, 13th round. So, but he's definitely being drafted. I know that for sure. I don't think you can leave your draft with him on the wire still. I don't think that's smart. But what is Walt saying? He won't. Stribling is an actual wide receiver. Debo is a gadget guy. True. And you don't think Kirk's going to make the team? Damn. That's crazy. Even with the depth concerns, they kind of need that guy. I don't know. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Kirk, I mean, I do believe, no, my fault. Yeah, I do. I agree with Walt on that front. I think Kirk is cooked. I mean, he couldn't even overtake the rookie receivers out there in Houston. But yeah, I mean, to your point, I do believe Stribling is still worth a flyer. There's always going to be injury concerns when you're talking about San Francisco. So
true.
Yeah, man, I agree with you.
Nice. Okay. I mean, yeah, there you go. So consensus is you're not necessarily going after Debo or making a move away from Stribling because of this news, but it is just something that maybe just helps the team stay afloat. They need this depth, a little bit of extra depth on the wide receiver aspect, because we've seen it in the past. They have fielded guys that are third string people in real scenarios, right? They actually on this team were third string, but were thrust into the starting role, and some of them performed pretty decently. But maybe Juwan Jennings was someone who maybe was a second string guy who got that opportunity and performed well. But not everybody's going to be Juwan Jennings, right? So what is Zuth saying? Yo, all right, I have to go do some stuff. All right, bro, take it easy, man. We'll see you next time, or we'll see you later maybe if you're back by the time we're still streaming. Could someone ping me in the server when a mock draft happens? I need to wrap up some school stuff. Keep up the great work, Ty. Hey, appreciate you, man, as always. And I'll give you a little Discord ping when we're about to do a mock draft. I'll send the link in the Discord. So if you're watching that, it'll come through. Hell yeah. All right, bro. We'll see you next time. Do this or later for the mock. But all right, yeah. No, let's move on from the Debo thing. Right into, well, I guess we'll save the Olave news for when we're going to look at the Saints in a bit. But let's just go straight into the Bucks. No real good segue there. But actually, I guess there is some news with Baker and his contract situation. Last I heard, and let's just take a look, Baker Mayfield contract news, was that he was looking for something closer to $50 million a year. And they're not looking to pay him that much, right? Okay. All right. Yeah, sounds good to do this. I'm trying to find where I saw that. Let's see. 50 mil. All right. So Buccaneers offered Baker Mayfield a 2-year extension. So this is as of 9:50 a.m. this morning. Thursday's surprising decision by the Bucs quarterback Baker Mayfield to publicly peel back the curtain on the details of his contract talks with the team created several questions. Here's one. Did the Buccaneers offer him a 2-year deal, or did they offer him a 2-year extension to his existing contract, making it a 3-year deal technically? Mayfield has reportedly characterized it as a 2-year deal per a source with knowledge of the situation. It was actually a 2-year extension. So just maybe there's just a misunderstanding about like how Baker said something or described it or characterized it in the news or the media or whatever. Baker mad about his contract, acting like he was worth over $50 million a year. What a joke. Yeah. So I guess you heard the same thing. I'm trying to figure out where I heard the $50 million number. ESPN's Jeremy Fowler reported that the Bucs ultimately offered Mayfield a 2-year deal worth slightly above $100 million in total. But that was the extension, so it's probably about maybe 33.3 mil or whatever it was that was listed earlier. 2-year, $100 million deal that would have a new money average of $72.5 million based on the old money of $27.5. So yeah, he would get an additional $72.5 million in addition to whatever his contract was, it sounds like. It's confusing. That's where the disconnect may be coming from. Mayfield may be looking at the offer in the total average from signing, and the Bucs may be looking at new money average. In this specific case, a 2-year extension worth more than $100 million has a new money APY of more than $50 million. The 3-year deal would have a real average from signing of 42.5 mil. I don't know what's there to complain about on Baker's side. I don't know. Maybe he's just confused because this is confusing to me. I don't know. It might be simpler than all this is made out to be, but if 42.5 mil is your average, bro, just take it. I don't know. Name a QB making 50 plus mil that Baker is better than. I couldn't. I actually don't know many making that much. Let's see. Maybe there's 3. I know it's probably like Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, and who would even be? It can't be Trevor Lawrence. It couldn't possibly be. Rosh, off the top of your head, do you know who it is?
Yeah, I mean, I believe Dak Prescott has a pretty rich contract. I don't believe Baker's better than Dak. I mean, maybe that's just my biased opinion. But I mean, it's really absurd for him to think that he should be making $50 million. I'm with you, man. Just take the 42.
Right.
You're on the end of your career. It's pretty absurd, man. It's pretty far-fetched for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, so check it out. You're right. Dak is the number 1 paid quarterback right now with 60 mil average contract salary, or average annual yearly average, or whatever the fuck. What am I trying to say? He's getting 60 mil a year. Josh Allen and Joe Burrow are both tied for 55 mil a year on average. And then Trevor Lawrence, that's right, he is up above 50 with 55 mil as well. Damn. And Jordan Love, too. There's 4 dudes making 55 mil a year. Jesus, dude, that's crazy. And then Jared Goff is 53 mil a year. Then Brock Purdy, 53 mil a year. Damn, there's a lot of dudes up here, actually. Justin Herbert, 52.5. Lamar Jackson, 52. Jalen Hurts, 51. And that's it. That's everybody over 50. So, yeah, is Baker better than any of these guys? I mean, if you're someone who doesn't believe in Jared Goff, you could say he's probably the bottom of the list. Maybe Brock Purdy's down there too, but I don't think you could say any of these other guys. And I know Walt's sitting here looking like, hey, what put Jalen Hurts on that list. I don't know if I don't know. Maybe he won a Super Bowl, so that's like hard to take him off the list completely, right? Or put him at the bottom of it. But yeah. It's funny to even talk about. I think Baker could be closer, maybe 44, 45, but dude, he's getting 42.5. Bro, we're talking splitting hairs at this point, and I'm not going to count anybody's pockets or whatever, be pocket watching or counting anybody's chicken or whatever, but like at a certain point, you're getting 40 plus mil. Like, obviously a lot of that's probably going to like taxes and agent fees and whatever, but you're seeing probably a cool like 20 mil of that just cash, just pocketing that at least, right? As long as you play all your games. So I don't know. That's a tough one. That's a tough one for me. Okay, so anyway, so that is the Baker Mayfield saga unfolding. hopefully it's a quicker resolution than maybe other sagas that also have been unfolding and could be dragged out a little bit longer. Like we're alluding to the Gibbs and maybe the Bijan of it all, but like Baker Mayfield is someone who, like I said, like maybe he could ask for a couple more mil. But at the end of the day, bro, like I listen, I understand getting his bag here because he just saw Mike Evans walk. He's also someone who maybe feels a little like he wanted to be here long term. Purdy is hands down better than Baker. Yeah, I'll give you that. But I guess what I'm trying to say is it looked like Baker was trying to establish himself in Tampa Bay. He was trying to plant his roots. It looked like he was, because for someone who was drafted in Cleveland, then bounced around. He was in Carolina, the Panthers for a while. Then he went to LA, I want to say. Then he showed up here in Tampa Bay. Has had some pretty good time here spent with Tampa Bay, right? The last few years have been pretty awesome, I would say, all things considered. And he's clearly being recognized in a way by how much he's making right now and what the team is offering him for the most part right now, right? But as far as him feeling like he's wanted here, or like the team can look forward to maybe another, because he's 31, if he has like 5+ good years left in him, in his peak, sort of form or I guess in his prime potentially, then the team would probably give him like a 4 or 5+ year deal. And that would, in his mind, feel like the team was sending him a message that they're confident in him, that maybe they feel like there is a window with him to win a Super Bowl that, that might take 5 years to complete, but they're willing to stick with him long term. In my mind, if I'm a player who feels like that, I'd be willing to take less money to have a longer term contract, less average yearly money or whatever, to at least be locked down to a place that I love to be at. If Baker loves Tampa Bay, right? Hey, what's up, LeBron James? How you doing, bro? LeBron James, let's go. Darnold just won a Super Bowl and signed a $33 million a year contract. True. I think there's a big caveat there with Sam Darnold, is that we know Sam Darnold is like a $30 million quarterback, no matter how much he performed down the stretch to get them into the Super Bowl and in general win a Super Bowl, right? Ultimately win one. But if you were to put Baker Mayfield on the Seahawks, I think you're looking at Baker Mayfield and the Seahawks as like surefire repeats for the Super Bowl, because I don't know if Sam Darnold instills that much confidence in you from an offensive perspective, right? Especially with the Rams chilling in that division. I don't think nobody's thinking the Seahawks are about to repeat this year, right? But Baker Mayfield would change that conversation, I think, for some. So that's the difference there, right? I don't think anybody's joking or fooling themselves thinking that like Sam Darnold is worth more than 33 mil. But oh shit, what is that? Oh, Kofi Streambot? Dude, what the fuck? I didn't set that up. Bro, don't listen to Kofi. I mean, that's cool, I guess. I didn't even know that was a thing, but appreciate you, Kofi. But all right. So it's too early for me to have concerns about Baker Mayfield holding out and not showing up for the start of the season this year. Like, I'm not thinking that I'm in jeopardy or that any other players are in jeopardy of any significant fantasy value decrease because Baker Mayfield doesn't show up week 1. But I mean, as we get closer to the year, and if this thing drags out, like obviously right now my urgency level is low. I'm like not even taking this seriously. If we're a week from now, Baker Mayfield still is like, oh yeah, I'm trying to get closer to 50 mil or whatever. Zuthis is right. It is a prove it year. So, I mean, so that's part of why he says he's due for an extension. The team knows he's due for an extension. He's had some decent years in the last couple of years. Let's take a look at his stats. So, but I mean, you could make the argument that he's proven it, so to speak. But at the same time, so he's been in Tampa Bay 3 years. He's thrown over 4,000 yards twice. Last year, he only threw for 3,693, so almost 3,700 yards. And it was just a down year pretty much in every category. Only 26 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, right? And the year before, he threw 41 touchdowns, 4,500 yards, 16 interceptions. So, I mean, just high volume across the board. And this is actually, what's crazy is that his attempts were about the same. So it was just less efficient, less accurate, and he literally completed like 60 less passes and only threw 27 less times. So that's a big discrepancy there in terms of efficiency, performance, production. Maybe it was a tough schedule. It's hard to say. But he has, in fantasy terms, finished as a top 12 quarterback in each of the last 3 years. And again, 2 years ago, he finished as a top 4 quarterback. And that was just an incredible year for him across the board, right? Nico Dobbs is saying, did you watch the new season of Quarterback on Netflix? It's crazy about last season with Baker. Great start. And then you see all the injuries he had. He got a baby boy. Baker is the dog. I don't think I saw the Baker portion. I honestly haven't watched a ton of, I don't really watch Netflix like that, but that is a good show. I've heard good things about it. I should watch it. Like, I really just should. Rasha, have you checked that shit out? Quarterback on Netflix?
Yeah, I've run across it. I haven't had a chance to really take a deep dive on it, but yeah, it definitely does look like a cool show. They also have a wide receiver. That's an interesting one as well.
Oh,
so,
shit.
Yeah, it may be something that I'll put on my radar.
Damn, okay.
But as far as Baker Mayfield, man, you know, I guess my red pill on him, and, you know, as you mentioned his stats. You know, he's being drafted around, the quarterback 20 right now in ADP.
Mm-hmm.
I think he'll easily exceed that. I love his value. You know, I see Walt in the chat. You know, he says that Tampa Bay fantasy-wise is a little mid. Yeah, you know, they're not elite by any means, but I think they'll be in enough games to where they could be involved in a lot of shootouts.
True. They might have to be putting up points to stay in games. Let's see. What does their schedule look like? Nico Dobbs is saying, also they showed JD 5 elbow. Oh shit. It was disgusting. Yeah, I'm good on that, bro. I'm not trying to see all that. They didn't have to show it like that. It was so much, you had so much pain watching it, bro. That's crazy. Yeah, I'll have to skip that part. Thanks for the heads up. LeBron James is saying, I'm not drafting Baker this year. I feel like there's a lot better QBs to get. All right. I mean, and both are fair assessments, right? You could decide to fade Baker completely. You could also decide to, at where Baker is going, which is down here by QB 18, QB 19, QB 20, you know, above guys like Jordan Love, Tyler Shuck, you can make the argument that, like, he's proven he can actually finish well above where he's being drafted. In fact, he's finished in each of the last 3 years as a top 12 quarterback when all is said and done. Sure, last year it was kind of bumpy, right? Like, there were some stretches, you know, especially right before the bye. I mean, 4 points against New Orleans, 12 points against Detroit the week before. And then after the bye, you know, he has a nice strong showing, 23 points against New England. But then it's a down stretch here, 5.5 points against the Rams, 14.5 points against Arizona, 12.1 points against New Orleans. So 2 New Orleans games where it was just suboptimal performance. So that's a division matchup that you hope, especially in, like, they're the divisional little bros, you would think, right? New Orleans Saints theoretically should be that for them. But bad performances both weeks, or both of those games, from Baker. So, and especially down the stretch when you were talking about, I guess, 20 points in week 15. So first week of the playoffs, not bad. But then week 16, 13.7 points. You needed your other guys to step up in a big way if you wanted to make it to the championships. And then once you got there, at Miami was a soft matchup, and he put 19.4 points up for you. So you can't be too mad about that performance actually in the playoffs, but still, you know, it was tough leading up to that for sure. I mean, 3 straight weeks of like 15 sub-point games. You know what I mean? Like that down the stretch, right before the fantasy playoffs. Maybe you're pushing to get a spot. You're not counting on Baker in some of these, or you maybe did and he burned you. So, but I agree with you. I mean, you're getting good value at where he's going, but, you know, for guys like LeBron James, you don't want to take that chance that maybe Baker is just like washed, which I'm not saying he is, but, like, you know, there could be a chance that without Mike Evans, he just doesn't look the same, or at least maybe this offense just kind of is a little slow to start. Let's take a look at their schedule real quick. So, damn. Starting off the year at my Bengals. That's going to be a shootout. So already like off to a great start. Then it's Cleveland at home. Then it's Minnesota at home. So I think like 3 games where they should be putting up points, right? Offensively and otherwise, right? Then it's Green Bay at home. So 3 straight home games for them. Then it's at Dallas. Then it's home against Pittsburgh, at Carolina, then versus Atlanta, at Chicago. I like this schedule. I'm actually not mad at it. A lot of these home games, a lot of their tough matchups, I guess, except for maybe Detroit, you could make an argument Chicago's tough. And then obviously Bengals defensively won't be tough. They'll be tougher than last year, but offensively is where you'll run into issues with them. But a lot of these road matchups are pretty soft. At Atlanta, not worried about it. At Baltimore, not too worried about it. At Carolina, at Dallas, right? At Cincinnati. It's really their tough matchups are at home. So I guess what I'm saying, and then we'll look at the playoffs here. So New Orleans, Atlanta, and then I guess week 17 is actually the tough matchup against Los Angeles. That'll be crazy. I don't know. That might scare people. But, you know, this team needs all the help it can get, really, in terms of soft matchups, because we could see them struggle a little bit for sure. Let's see. Nico Dobbs saying, honestly, if you watch Quarterback on Netflix, they explain why Baker did bad midseason. He played through so much pain in his shoulder he couldn't throw. I could see that. He's a dog, right? So like you said, he's going to play through that pain. I could definitely see that. I wouldn't be surprised if Tampa Bay finished 3rd in the division. Damn, bro. All right, well, we're going to look at the Saints and the Panthers and the Falcons and see which one you would put either, you know, which teams you'll put above Tampa Bay. But all right, let's talk about Bucky, man. All right, Rasha, Bucky, hit me with Bucky, bro. What's the best case scenario for Bucky? He's going here at the where is Bucky going? He's like in the 2nd round, right? Bucky is going, oh wow, RB20 in like the 6th round. So why is he being disrespected? What am I missing with Bucky? Is there a reason why I should be picking him up higher than this?
Well, yeah, I mean, he did burn me last year. You know, he was my keeper in Lowe's league, but you know, I'm still a Bucky truther. You know, he still has a lot of ability, and you know, to your point, I can see why he's lower on a lot of people's draft boards. I mean, he did miss several games last year due to the shoulder issue, and
right.
You know, simultaneously he did have that foot injury to begin the season. He was in that walking boot, but you know, he was very inefficient. He only averaged 3.4 yards a carry. You know, his rookie season, you know, is up at 5.4. But you know, Coach Todd Boyle says he's ready to go. They're not easing him in like they did in the last season. So, you know, I still expect him to get a lot of receiving work, even though we have Gainwell there. It'll be interesting to see how much of that workload that Gainwell takes. But you know, I'm still high on Bucky. I love his ADP. And if you can get him as your running back 3 flex option, even as a running back 2, I'm high on him because to me, he has running back 1 upside. That's just my take on him.
Yeah, I mean, all great points. Like you said, last year he burned people, but before he did, he actually had some pretty substantial performances. You know, 14.5 points, 18.1, 13.9, 25.5. Then he goes out for 7 weeks, including a bye. So 8 weeks, you can't really use him. When he comes back, 2 solid performances, but then obviously we talked about it, I think a little bit when we were talking about Gainwell, maybe a couple weeks ago, I can't remember. For whatever reason, Bucky Irving's passing work completely took a hit after he came back. So that might have been a shoulder thing, right? Maybe he just couldn't get his hands both up there. They probably brought him back before he felt comfortable, or before maybe they felt comfortable really relying on him in the passing game. So he only had like 3 targets for the, you know, at maximum for the 4 games after he returned. And then 1 spike game against Miami where he had 6 targets, caught 5 of those for 14 yards though, and just was not effective in that game at all. And so for the entire fantasy playoffs, it's doo-doo. You know, it's 8.1, 7.1, 8.3. It's just not good performances. So you can't trust it. And that was last year again, after he was maybe working through this injury situation. So we'll give him the benefit of the doubt that a 23-year-old guy who's probably going to be 24 by the time the season ends, but still very young. And I think last year was really the only year that, because obviously he was a rookie the year before and he played all 17 games. Last year was the only year that we could see where he had, at least in the NFL, an injury situation crop up like this. So freak accident, sure, we can maybe move forward with a little bit of confidence and say, I trust that the youth of it all and just the fact that he's going to have this opportunity, that Bucky is in a position to absolutely outscore where he's going in drafts. Like, I think that's not even a question for people. I think the question is, to your point, is Gainwell going to be the passing down back? So is he, because we've seen him absolutely excel in that role with Philadelphia, last year with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So is Gainwell going to be that guy for Tampa Bay this year? Potentially, right? I absolutely could see that. Even though Bucky can do it, we've seen him do it in the past. But maybe they're just trying to split things up a little bit more. Regardless, I think Bucky, even with just sort of the 1-2 down role, is more than worth picking up in this position. And the only reason why I would maybe be hesitant on him is because I'm higher on guys like maybe David Montgomery, right? Or TreVeyon Henderson. So if I'm looking at those three guys, I probably pick up David Montgomery and or TreVeyon Henderson over Bucky. But if Bucky's sitting there and David Montgomery and TreVeyon Henderson have both been picked up, and I'm looking at him and Bashaw Tutin, or maybe him and Jaylen Warren, if he's, even in that mix, I'm probably going to go with Bucky. I think that actually would make the most sense. So, let's see. What is Walt saying? Godwin is old and Igbuka can't be quarterback once. We'll take a look at Igbuka's tape last year and we'll see where his peak games were, because you're right. It might be the cornerback one treatment is not very fair for him, or nice to him, I guess. But I want to give Igbuka a little bit of credit because he did look good in a stretch of time last year. And I guess we'll take a look at him right now. Fuck it. But any last thoughts on Bucky before we talk about Igbuka?
Really, I would really talk more about Gainwell a little bit. We don't have to go take a deep dive.
Mm-hmm.
But as we can see, a lot of his work last year did come in the passing game. He did look competent as a runner over there in Pittsburgh. But for me, I'm really not too sold on Gainwell like that, like a lot of the fantasy community is. I feel like a lot of his work came because, Aaron Rodgers just didn't have anyone to throw the ball to. They couldn't throw the ball deep down the field.
True.
And I just don't think that he's going to have that type of production in the passing game out there in Tampa Bay. And Bucky, he's clearly, to me, the number one lead back on that team.
Yeah. Gainwell, 27 years old, so a little bit older, but not right like in the zone where we get a little nervous or worried about their age or anything like that. But to your point, are we going to see this from him where he's going like 4 straight games or 3 straight games with 7 targets at least, or, spike games where he's going 8 targets, 7 catches, 81 yards, 2 touchdowns through the air, right? Like, I don't know if we're going to be able to count on that. Obviously, like last year down the stretch, it was more reliable, or maybe more theoretically doable to rely on Kenneth Gainwell down the stretch, because you could predict some of these outcomes, but I don't think he's going to have predictable outcomes in any fashion this year. If he does do well, it'll probably be on your bench. And so he's going at RB 33. That's just too high for me if I'm talking about someone who I need to rely on in any form or fashion. Like if I'm looking at a flex worthy person, like Kenneth Gainwell doesn't even come across my radar. RJ Harvey, on the other hand, is someone who could be immediately flex worthy, right? And he's going just a couple picks above Kenneth Gainwell here. Let's see who's going below Kenneth Gainwell. Quentin Johnston. If I'm looking for either a wide receiver or a running back, it's Quentin Johnston every time. He's someone who I could flex from the jump, right, if I needed to. I probably am picking up just depth pieces in this round, in like round 8, round 9, round 10. But like either way, Kenneth Gainwell, I think, is going too high where he's at. I would probably pass on him even in like 2 or 3 rounds later. Like he's literally just almost like a handcuff at this point to me, Nico Dobbs says, you'd rather have Jonathan Brooks than Bucky? Dang. And this is in the interdivision situation here. So Jonathan Brooks is going down here as RB 39, where we saw Bucky going all the way up here as like RB 33 or something, right? So no, actually he's going higher. RB 20. So bro, that's kind of crazy. You're saying you would take Brooks over Bucky? Obviously, I think you mean you would pass on Bucky and then go pick up Brooks later on, who's obviously going down here. But in some drafts, I think I've seen Jonathan Brooks go earlier than the 9th or 10th round. I actually think people have been picking up Jonathan Brooks, and we'll talk about him because that's part of the news that we kind of skipped over because it's relevant to the division. But Jonathan Brooks has apparently looked good, looks healthy. We'll see what the buzz is around him, but things are definitely looking up for a young guy named Jonathan Brooks. So I do like that. I will say this is gonna change. Hey, what's up, Zuthas? Welcome back. Welcome back. These draft positions are gonna change. I don't think Jonathan Brooks is gonna stay down here at RB 39, and maybe Bucky stays at around RB 20. But the gap between those two guys will probably close for sure. Walt Grizzly is saying, I would take the starting running back from every other team in the division before you would take Bucky. Damn, bro. So we're talking Brooks, Etienne, and obviously Bijan. Like, obviously, there's no question. But that's crazy. Damn, bro. All right, there's a lot of Bucky hate out there, man. Rasha, is that crazy? I feel like that's a little too harsh, you know? I'm not a Bucky guy, but like I feel like, someone, if anybody's gonna feel bad for Bucky, is you, right? Like
Man, I'm still high on Bucky. I just like his talent. I mean, For me, it's about the value. He's not getting drafted around, the Kyron Williams of the world, Javonte Williams, these other guys. Right. To your point, I totally agree. I can see why you would take David Montgomery in that range over Bucky. But I mean, if he's available and he can be your running back 3, I really don't see anything wrong with that.
Yeah, and you're it's the type of team you want to construct. You're probably going either super running back heavy with that type of draft, or like you said, if you trust Bucky and you're not mad at having him as like your RB2, he's slotting right into your RB2. And you could do worse with RB2s, you know what I mean, with an RB2 than Bucky Irving. So, it's not oh shit, I'm missing some chats here. After last year is reasonable. Yeah, I do believe Brooks will overtake Chuba Hubbard like Rico Dowdle did last year. Yeah, I could see that too. Once he's like back and fully healthy, 100%. I don't think they want Chuba to be the guy. I think they've been trying to move on from him like secretly for the last couple of years. But he just keeps sticking around, man. They can't get rid of him. It's not just Bucky, it's the whole team. It's the team as a whole. Yeah, that is a good argument. That is a good argument. Bucky in the 8th for sure. Damn. So Bucky, yeah. I mean, Bucky down here, I guess if he slips a whole round and a half, maybe, then you could find him in the 8th. If that's the case, then you're saying you would pick him up around there. Ramondre, obviously you're picking up Bucky over Ramondre. Jadarian Price, I think you're picking up Bucky over Jadarian. Jaylen Warren, yeah, definitely over Jaylen Warren. Bucky burnt too many people last year. How can you trust a guy that has such a long time to recover and still not being 100%? I hated relying on Bucky. It's that recency bias, man. It is a culprit, and sometimes it's warranted. A lot of the times it's warranted, but there are times where you gotta look past it because a guy can totally change the outcome for himself and for whatever your own predictions were for this character or player based off of what they performed just the most recent year, right? Like, recency bias is an absolute like monster in fantasy football. And there are times where it's fine to lean into that, and there are times where you kind of get burned for taking a little too much stock in that. So I'll leave it at that. But Zuthis is saying, how does Debo affect the Mike Evans range, value range? And then, Zuthis, you're right, or Walt is right. It's not going to affect his value at all. I wouldn't be worried about it. Maybe the only thing you can say is, would you consider maybe waiting a little bit longer on Mike Evans? But can you? Right? Like, I don't think you can afford to, if you really want Mike Evans, to wait an extra round for him, because there's just too many guys that I would much rather take Mike Evans, despite the Deebo Samuel acquisition, over like Christian Watson, Roma Dunze, Carnell Tate, maybe, Marvin Harrison Jr., like all these receivers. Mike Evans isn't going to make it past those guys, right? Even with the Deebo situation. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about that. You believe more in Cam Skattebo than Bucky? Wild take, man. Don't tell Rasha that, bro. Don't tell Rasha. Nah. But all right, so we covered Bucky, we covered Kenny Gainwell. I agree with you on Kenny Gainwell. I don't think he's going to be much of a factor. If anything, you're just again drafting him as maybe a handcuff to Bucky. But even then, like, Sean Tucker might actually end up taking the Bucky role if anything were to happen to Bucky, as we saw in the past. Igmika Egbuka, I loved what I saw from him last year. I think in his rookie year, he was outstanding. And, it was unfortunate because he got hurt with a hamstring. Didn't miss any time, oddly enough. Let's actually verify that. I want to say he didn't miss any actual games. But the problem was, even if he was starting, he wasn't playing a bunch of snaps, and he wasn't really productive. Even if he was getting 75% of snaps and 12 targets, he only caught 4 of them for 58 yards. That was at Detroit. Not sure why that matchup was as tough as it was. Maybe some of these throws were just uncatchable. Actually, I do remember, I want to say one of these was just a drop, like a full-blown drop. Nico Dobbs saying, even if Scat broke his ankle again, he would still score more points and still score more yards and points than Bucky in half a season. That's funny. You don't know about your Scat teams? They're always trash. Oh, you don't know about Scat? New York teams are always trash. Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, we've seen really pop-off years from players like OBJ, Saquon Barkley. There are probably a couple other Giants that I'm forgetting to name right now, but those obviously all happened like a pretty significant time ago. So we haven't seen significant performances from Giants until recently, which is really like Skattebo and Jackson Dart. Like, those are the two most recent. Obviously this happened last year, but like before then it was tough to get any Giant to be reliable. So Walt's not wrong there, but like, we'll see what the Giants look like this year. I don't know. We did look at their depth chart. That could be an interesting scenario. I don't trust a lot of them, if any of them, but you could find some nice, pleasant surprises there. But anyways, Igmika Egbuka, this is what I'll say about him. Started off hot, 23.6 points, 12.9, 14.5. And these 12.9 and 14.5 games are like allowable because you picked him up probably in like the 10th round or something like that. So he's probably someone you were even just flexing if you were playing him at all, right? You're probably flexing him after this 23.6 point week for sure. But until week 6, when he got hurt, I think in this game, got knocked out of the game with a hamstring, never came back, and then was essentially forced to come back the very next week, and then never quite got back up to his production that we saw before he got knocked out. And I, again, want to say it was a combination of things. Mike Evans not being there because he got knocked out as well, I think, one of these games and missed some time. So that gives you a little bit of a less of a safety valve, or, not only for the offense and Baker Mayfield to have a reliable target that he can trust. Igmika Egbuka is also getting the cornerback 1 treatment, right? That Walt Grizzly alluded to. So do we think that all this is when essentially Evans was not in the lineup anymore? Was all this him being hobbled? He was getting all this volume, not super efficient. 8 targets, 3 catches. 8 targets, 4 catches. 9 targets, 2 catches. Was a lot of that uncatchable? Was some of those drops maybe? Or was that just like the cornerback play was just at a higher caliber than what Igmika Egbuka was used to and was able to overcome, right? There's a lot there. And so as hopeful me will tell you all the time, I like to be optimistic. I want to say it was a combination of maybe the hamstring wasn't 100%. Sure, the cornerback 1 treatment was tough for him. He was a rookie still. And can he overcome that in his second year? I think there's a chance that he could take a big step up, but it just depends. I don't know. Like we just looked at the schedule. I couldn't tell you exactly which quarterbacks are going to be like problematic for him, right? Like by name. But it'll be fun as we go through the year to maybe go through each week's matchup and see who's playing the other side of Emeka Egbuka and say, are we confident that he's going to be able to overcome this cornerback matchup this week? We'll see. We'll see. Maybe it'll be like a weekly thing with me and Walt where we just like we're constantly talking about who Emeka Egbuka could actually perform against, right? Nico Dobbs is saying, how do we feel about Neighbors' reps the other day without pads? He looked good. Yeah, I mean, it's so early in camp that like things like this are good to see, but I want to see it against like an actual defense. Maybe I want to see it against like, because this is just, I think, drills that he was doing. For sure, they're going to take their time with him. I don't think they want him to rush back or anything, but it's always encouraging to see him or any player who's been hurt the way Neighbors was to be out there catching passes, running routes, looking solid as he does it, right? Absolutely. Those are great players. He is not on that level. Scat and Ayuk are going to be wandering the streets together in a CTE days in a couple of years. Oh my gosh. Brutal, bro. Probably though. You don't want it for them, right? You don't hope or wish that upon anyone. But man. All right. So what are your thoughts on Emeka Egbuka? I know I've been hogging the mic. What's your Emeka Egbuka take, Rasha?
Oh man, you're good, Ty, man. Keep cooking. I'm not worried about it. Hey man, I know the chat is trying to get me off of Tampa Bay, but it's gonna be hard to convince me. They're not gonna be one of the great. An elite offensive.
Oh shit! I think you're turning into a robot. Damn.
They're not going to be a low average team like the Browns or the Dolphins or even the Panthers. For me, I think Baker and Egbuka is really one of the best stacks that you can find. Fantasy football is all about value. That's something that we got to remember.
True.
And if you look at his first 5 games, like you mentioned, I mean, he was a beast. He had 5 touchdowns in his first 5 games. Mm-hmm. And with Mike Evans gone, he had all the opportunity in the world. Now emerges to the number 1 wide receiver. So I'm high on the book.
I like it. I like the optimism. I agree with you in the sense that when he was coming out of the gate swinging last year, I mean, just a touchdown machine. Like you said, 4 weeks out of 5 weeks with a touchdown in each of those games. So C3PO's back. That's funny. So yeah, no, I agree with you there. I think if we see even a little bit of what we saw for the first 5 weeks from last year, we can see that he's consistently getting in the end zone, consistently breaking, coverage for big touchdowns, big chunk plays. This will be an insanely value pick. And I know Baker's going to want to sling it. He's a gunslinger, right? Like he's going to want to keep pushing the defenses as much as he possibly can. And so if Egbuka's getting open, you better believe Baker's going to take some shots, right? Azuthis is saying, are y'all reaching on tight ends this year? I'm not. I never do. But, oh man. Okay. The Kofi bot thing. I might have to see what the hell's going on with that. That could be distracting because I'm already getting distracted by it. But Zuthis is saying, are you reaching on tight ends this year? Like I said, I probably won't. There's just too many guys that you can get like in round 12, round 13, round 14. Guys like Dallas Goedert, guys like Brenton Strange, even guys like we talked a little bit about Njoku, right? Like Kittle's even down here in the 11th round. Right. So, and these are dudes that could easily overperform their ADP. So, yeah. Are we doing another draft tonight? Yeah, I do. I want to do one. I want to try to get one in probably within the next, we're already an hour in. So probably within the next 30 minutes. So we're going to have to speed run through these divisions because, I do want to do the divisions before we do the mock draft. So let's see if we can crush these divisions real quick and then we'll do a quick mock and then we'll do a mock at the end. So Egbuka, I think neutral on him where he's going, and I'll leave it at that. I like his upside, but I do think that there is a risk there. And to Walt's point, I totally understand the concern. I would probably be hesitant to pick him up over guys like maybe, let's see. I mean, Jameson Williams going all the way down here. I would still probably wait to pick up J-Mo as my like wide receiver 3 or something over Igbuka, who's going way up here. So that is something that I would probably be concerned about. But yeah, I'm not gonna excuse me. I'm not gonna look too far away from Igbuka just because of like a little bit of turmoil within the team, and a little bit is actually a lot. Like, let's not be fooling ourselves here. I love drafting against Walt. He's so unpredictable. Yeah, Walt's a good drafter, man. You'll get really savvy drafting against Walt and guys like him, in drafts for sure. So you'll take that knowledge back to your other drafts, and then you'll be throwing people, off their game and whatnot. So yeah, to wrap it up with the Tampa Bay Bucks, because there really isn't a lot more to cover other than maybe Chris Godwin real quick and Jalen McMillan, but like, the turmoil that we're seeing with Baker Mayfield, with Tristan Wirfs, with also the question marks with Igbuka, maybe not being able to perform against cornerback ones, with Bucky Irving's health, how much maybe Kenneth Gainwell will be worked into this offense. That's like 5 different things already that we are still waiting to feel out and to get definitive answers on, right? So that's like, again, a reason to be hesitant when you're drafting any of these guys. However, the one thing that I think is keeping all of the floors from falling out from these guys' ADP is the fact that we've seen them be just like top tier caliber performers in a fantasy relevance aspect, right? Like Igbuka, again, last year, wide receiver 4, wide receiver 32, wide receiver 25, wide receiver 11, wide receiver 1. Those are his first 5 weeks. He's finishing as like a top 25 wide receiver in each one of those weeks, essentially. Top 32 in week 2, but still like averaging like a top 15 wide receiver if you took the averages. So we know they can do it. It's just, will they put it together this year? I think that's the tough question. Ty, how are we looking about the $20 league? Are we going to be able to get more people? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm not even worried about it. We still got like about a month until that's going to even draft. So I have some people that I'll hit up to be like last minute additions, but as far as like getting people in as soon as possible, we can get some folks in the next couple weeks for sure. I'm not worried about it. So and I think Rasha, have you joined that league yet? Don't feel pressured to do it, but like we could probably get like Rasha. Matty Boots hasn't even joined that league yet, I don't think. There's folks that I got on the short list,
Yeah, for sure, man. I'd be ecstatic to join that league, man, for sure. I just have to get the link. Yeah, I'll join up with you.
All right, cool. Okay, and I'll just say this about Chris Godwin. Let's see, where's Chris Godwin? Is he like off people's draft boards? Oh, there he was. Damn, okay, so he's going as wide receiver 35, bro. Oh, I heard that the Bucs backfield will be a committee. Okay, yeah, so that's probably why people are a little lower on Bucky. But Bucky will still be like the more valuable back in that role, in that backfield for sure. Chris Godwin, I don't know, man. I just don't trust it. He's burned you too many times. The fact that he's going this high is just wild to me. I think people are just expecting him to just be like viable. But I don't know. Like, is it crazy to say that I would much rather pick up Cortland Sutton over him, Parker Washington, even Michael Pittman Jr., right? Probably not Wan'Dale Robinson. I probably would draw the line there. But like if I'm like reaching, I'll probably even pick up Quentin Johnston over Chris Godwin. Like, is that crazy to say? Or are you kind of a Chris Godwin believer as well?
No, that's where I'm going to draw the line with this team. I mean, yeah, you're right. He's burnt guys too many times. I think the thing is, with Chris Godwin, I think a lot of people are just thinking about his breakout a couple of seasons ago. He was getting like 20 fantasy points back to back.
Right.
But, he's just too many injuries that he's experienced now. He's 30 years old. But, I mean, if there's any optimism to be had, he could emerge as the team's number 2 option there. As long as he stays healthy, who knows? He could be a flex option, but it's not a guy that I'm targeting by any means.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm like avoiding Chris Godwin like the plague. I think even in like if he slides all the way to like the 13th round, I still think I'm picking somebody else over him. You're the backs. Oh, okay, yeah. Would you take Jordan Addison over Godwin? I mean, I think I'm taking anybody, to be honest. But like if it's Jordan Addison who's going down here about a round later, which is, again, I'm maybe 2 rounds later, actually. If it's between those guys, I don't know, man. I'm probably just punting and picking up a different guy because I don't like either of those guys, to be honest. If you literally, again, put a gun to my head and we're like, Jordan Addison or fucking Chris Godwin right now, who are you picking up? I'd probably pick up Jordan Addison. That would be the choice. But full disclosure, neither of those guys are on my draft board. I'm not picking up either of those guys. I'm scrambling over other guys, or scrambling over them to pick up other guys that are further down because I just am that off of both of those guys. So, yeah. Oh, Walt likes Addison. Okay. I mean, people can like Addison. I think the reason why I'm so low on Addison is because I just don't trust Kyler Murray or JJ McCarthy to be reliable enough to get this type of production from Jordan Addison consistently. We might see him have some pop-off games. Jordan Addison is one hell of a player. I 100% recognize the talent. He passes the eye test with flying colors. Has missed some time in the last couple years. Only played 15 games 2 years ago. Last year he played 14 games, but did finish the season playing all the games in a row. So he missed the first 3. And I think that was that because he was like suspended or some shit? Yeah. Exactly. So it wasn't even an injury. It was just a suspension. That was the reason why he missed that time. Still, last year, super inconsistent. Obviously, we know it was just a matter of that quarterback was, who the fuck was their quarterback again last year? I keep forgetting who it was. Was it, dude, who was the Minnesota Vikings quarterback last year?
McCarthy?
No, but he got hurt, didn't he?
Oh, Carson Wentz for a time.
Oh, yeah, Carson Wentz. That's right, Carson Wentz. So it's like, Carson Wentz is Garbo, right? Yeah, Carson Wentz. Thank you. Carson Wentz is Garbo. So this was all with Carson Wentz. Even if he was getting targets, he wasn't going to be able to catch them. They were probably just all like uncatchable, right? So now that he's with Kyler Murray, and maybe we'll see JJ McCarthy at some point this year, I don't know. I still don't know if Jordan Addison is like, again, it's not him. It's all the situation around him. Is he going to be worth picking up here where, again, I could go guys like, if I'm looking below him, I like Dallas Goedert. I don't think Dallas Goedert is going to even be available here, though. I like Jonathan Brooks. Again, probably not going to be available. But here is where I'm picking up depth pieces. And I'd much rather get like depth at my running back spot, like Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, who could end up being a starter easily, over Jordan Addison, who at best, my best case scenario, and this might be pretty harsh, but given the current circumstances with Minnesota, unless I'm to believe otherwise for any other, if something is brought to my attention that will help me believe otherwise, then I will change my outlook on this. But right now, how I feel about Minnesota is that Jordan Addison is not going to be worth picking up down here at the wide receiver 46. He's not going to be flex worthy. I think he'll be flexible in some games, right? In certain matchups where maybe Justin Jefferson is hurt, or Justin Jefferson's going to receive like, cornerback 1 or bracket coverage. Jordan Addison's the only guy who they decide to focus on out of necessity that game, or whatever the case may be. I don't know. There will be some pop-off matchups with Jordan Addison as like the guy to start that week for sure. He is, again, just that talented. But like, are you going to sit here and tell me that you're going to be confident every single week to just fire up Jordan Addison? At least right now. Again, this could all change. Obviously, once it comes to things completely can be just 180 the second the season starts. So, or even before then, like if we see some positive things coming out of either camp or even in preseason between Kyler and Jordan Addison, if we see a couple connections early on, I mean, I'm drafting literally September 6th in my main league. That is essentially 4 days or less before the beginning of the NFL season. So we've already seen preseason and everything. So I want as much information as possible before I draft. And so if I've seen Jordan Addison do some positive things leading up to that, point in camp, in preseason, then I think that would change my outlook. But right now, I'm like, I just can't be that optimistic about a Kyler Murray-led offense, right? And I might just be over analyzing the Kyler Murray of it all, but like, dude, nah, GTA 6 is coming out this year. Like, that hands down is going to be a nightmare situation for that franchise, for that quarterback room, right? Kyler Murray looks better. Hey, what's up, Matty Boots? Hey, welcome in, bro. Happy Friday. We made it. You think Kyler Murray looks better? Arizona feels like a place players' careers go to die. Fair. Addison is a solid bench player for sure. He'll be good depth. I probably, again, wouldn't want to pick him up around here. Maybe if he slid around, I could see picking him up. But yeah. Maybe that's too much hate on Addison. But all right. Maybe I will say this one last thing. I want to move on from the Bucks, but I will say this one last thing. I kind of talked about it a little bit, I think, a week ago, but Jalen McMillan is someone who's going in the back of drafts. If anything were to happen to Chris Godwin, which is very possible, Jalen McMillan finished 2 years ago with an insane stretch that did help people win fantasy championships if they were paying attention to this guy and were able to pick him up and start him on their teams. Look at this right here. I think Mike Evans might have went down during this stretch, but 2 years ago, week 14, 7 targets, 4 catches, 2 touchdowns. Next week, 6 targets, 5 catches, 75 yards, a touchdown. Very next week, 7 targets, 5 catches, a touchdown. Following week, 5 targets, 5 catches, 2 touchdowns. Are we seeing a trend? Dude had 4 back-to-back weeks to finish his year with touchdowns, and in a couple cases had 2, right? So this kid, I'm not putting a bunch of stock into right now, but again, if you're getting him in the back of drafts, if he's someone who's on the depth chart as a starter right now, he's listed as a starter on the depth chart. If anything were to happen to Chris Godwin, I think even if anything weren't to happen to him, Jalen McMillan actually could end up being a sneaky guy on this offense that ends up being like a flex-worthy player each and every week just based off of necessity alone, right? If it's not working out with Igbuka, Jalen McMillan fills that role for them a little bit. He's a tall guy, is low-key a burner, right? 6'1", 192, so not the biggest dude, but definitely a burner, and again, has a nose for the end zone, right? Hey, we got Matty Boots in the house. But all right, any final thoughts on the Bucks before we move on to the Saints?
We definitely need to move on.
All right, let's move on.
We've been on the Bucks, but man, 2 names that I want to also mention. They could be good waiver wire pickups. Because this is a very injury plagued team. Let's not forget about Tez Johnson and rookie Ted Hurst.
True.
This could be a few guys that we could check out, man. If anybody goes down, the Ted Hurst, he's 6'3". He could play that X receiver role that Mike Evans had. So, it's interesting. If you're ever in need of a wide receiver and, the opportunity presents itself, those are a few names that I keep in mind.
I like it. Yeah, Ted Hurst, definitely someone to keep an eye out in super deep leagues and obviously in dynasty leagues. He's a rookie 3rd-round pick out of Georgia State. Someone who, like Rasha mentioned, 6'3", big body guy. A little on the lighter side, though, like a 185 pounds, so lanky. Kind of reminds you maybe of like a AJ Green, but maybe like a poor man's AJ Green. No disrespect to Ted Hurst. I'm sure he's fine. But, we'll see how much playtime he potentially can get. But you're right. Like if guys like above him either get hurt like Chris Godwin or just don't perform, we could see Ted Hurst jump in a little bit into this mix because he does play sort of that big receiver role for them, right? And then obviously we saw a little bit of Tez Johnson last year. He had a little bit of a couple stretches where he had some work, ended up finishing with 28 catches, 322 yards, 5 touchdowns on the year. Right. So there were some moments where he flashed, but I think it was, again, purely out of necessity. He's a 7th-round pick. So I don't know what they want to do with him as far as like role wise. I don't know if they want to lean on him as much as they would like to. But, again, out of necessity, it could end up happening sooner than we think with Chris Godwin being as injury prone as he is. Right. So, let's move on from the Bucks. That was nice. That was a nice little wrap up with the Bucks. next up, New Orleans Saints. What can we say? Tyler Shuck, second-year player, looks pretty solid. Oh, the one thing I guess we should start off with, Chris Olave got his money, got paid. What were the deal? What was the contract of that? Let's see what the contract details of that was. Chris Olave contract. 4-year contract extension worth up to $132 million, featuring $90 million guaranteed and keeping him under contract through the 2030 season. Wow. So up to $33 million annual average value. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. How do we feel about Olave? I mean, I think we can at least garner or gather what the New Orleans Saints think about Olave, and they like this guy. So Tyler Shuck, we saw him flash a little bit last year. I know, Rasha, you're kind of high on Shuck, so why don't I pass the mic off to you? Shuck's going right here at quarterback 20 in round 11, 12. Do you like where Shuck's going? I know you were kind of mentioning he's someone you can grab as a good value who could potentially, because of his rushing upside, his sneaky rushing upside. We saw a little bit down the stretch last year where he had some moments where he not only rushed a bunch, but had a couple touchdowns on the ground. So, like, you like to see that. Those were obviously his 3 best games of last year. But do you think we could see more of that from him this year? Do you think with the addition of Etienne and, you know, this new signing now, or this extension with Chris Olave, that like they're going to maybe unload a little bit more with this offense and start lighting defenses up because they have the talent, and then Shuck actually is someone who could put it together? What do you think? Give me the red pill. Give me the full all in on Tyler Shuck.
Well, absolutely. Tyler Shuck, he's one of my favorite sleeper candidates this year at the quarterback position. You know, he could be a great quarterback 2 option for you. And I do believe that he has quarterback 1 upside, you know, perhaps low end quarterback 1. But, you know, this is a guy that if you draft him, he will return that value and then some. You know, we're now entering Kellen Moore's second year as the head coach. You know, from a schematic standpoint, you know, now that he knows the system a little better, you know, and then they also added rookie wide receiver Jordan Tyson. So, I mean, it's going to be a good situation for him. You know, he offers a safe floor. You know, as you mentioned, he does have that rushing upside. So I really do believe that he will be a steal at his current redraft ADP.
Nice. Yeah, I like that take. I like that take a lot. You know, we saw a good stretch last year. After week 13, he was scoring 18.4 points, 22.3, 18.1, 17.1, 21.9. So, like, solid production down the stretch of last year. And so if he can continue that momentum into this season, like, we could see easily his performance out being more valuable than his ADP is, which is currently at 20. And Nico Dobbs is saying he likes Shuck. He showed his talent. Sick. I mean, we definitely are seeing right here. He's not only doing it with pretty efficient work right here. Like, he's being pretty efficient about it. But again, it's that safe rushing floor that he seems to provide. Maybe a couple games of down rushing, but like still pretty solid. Is Alvin Kamara the RB1? No, it's Travis Etienne now. Travis? I know there's a Trevor and a Travis. It's Travis Etienne. So it's Travis Etienne now, but they did actually bring Kamara back. So it might be a committee here. I don't know, but I think the sort of outlook is, and the coaching staff probably wants to utilize Etienne as the main guy, with Kamara being sort of like the gadget or third down back, or just like sort of a reliable, you know, whenever they need to have a dump off play with a guy who's like a vet who's used to that type of role and knows the offense, right? Like, I'm not expecting Kamara to have a huge role in this offense, but what I will say is that there will be times where you're the Travis Etienne owner, you're playing Etienne and you're hoping that like he's about to get a touchdown because they're in the red zone, and all of a sudden you see number 41 walk out there. And you're like, where the hell is Travis? Why is Etienne not in there? And it's just like, hey man, it's the Alvin Kamara play. You know, it's gonna happen, right? So it was like the Taysom Hill It's like, dude, why is Taysom Hill in there? What the fuck? Get the other quarterback in, right? It's like, it's the same situation. It's that's going to happen. So I think that's, you're not grabbing Alvin Kamara and starting him every week because you can't. I don't think he's going to be that reliable, but there are going to be times where Etienne doesn't get the touchdown because it, again, is just the Alvin Kamara play. So is Travis Etienne? Nice. Okay. Well, yeah. So we talked about Tyler Shough. I like your Tyler Shough take. What about Travis Etienne? How do you feel about him? I know I kind of just alluded to that situation a little bit, but what are your thoughts on where Etienne's going? He's going as RB18, right around guys like Cam Scatterbo, Josh Jacobs, Bucky Irving's going below Etienne on this list. David Montgomery, DeAndre Swift. Do you think Etienne should be lower than some of those guys? I know you're higher on Bucky, so you probably would pick Bucky up over Etienne. Just like, where do you like look at Etienne as like the reasonable time to pick him up?
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, he actually did come out in the media and said that his name is actually Travis Etienne. After all these seasons, maybe he was.
Are you kidding?
Maybe he. Said
that's why Nico
No,
Dobbs is saying that. Oh shit.
Maybe it was, now he's in New Orleans, maybe he's using his Cajun, acclimate or whatever the case. But I love his value. I love his value. I mean, you're talking about a guy drafted as a low-end running back too, and he's the classic case of, you have to not use recency bias when you're drafting these guys. Mm-hmm. Because if you can remember, the season before last, he burnt a lot of people. But he was very successful last year. Yeah. And, Coach Kellen Moore, he wants to run the ball. And anytime he was the offensive coordinator, you saw it with the Eagles, you saw it with the Chargers. He's a guy that wants to establish the run. And I really feel like, that's a big reason why they picked him up in the first place, just to shore up that run game.
Yeah. No, I mean, I like that. I like that outlook. I mean, if we take a look at his last year, like you said, finished as a top 10 running back, right? 1,100 yards, 7 touchdowns, which, isn't amazing, but it's pretty solid. It was really just like the efficiency, 4.3 yards per attempt, and, the volume, right? So, again, that's Jacksonville. They are a pretty decent offense. I don't know if we can make a comparison of New Orleans to Jacksonville and call them similar in terms of how they're constructed or even their offensive power. But I think New Orleans could surprise a lot of people with how efficient they are on offense. Again, with Tyler Shough being maybe a little bit more dangerous than defenses want to give him credit for, and that opening up sort of the running lanes and even some of this pass attack with guys like Olave. And then we'll talk about who they have on the rest of the squad from as far as pass catchers, because I'm pretty sure it's not much after Olave. Once you talk about Olave, and then it's maybe Juwan Johnson, right? But we'll get there in a sec. As far as Travis Etienne, right? If we're really going to go with what he's saying now in terms of his name, I think he's definitely someone you could be fine with picking up. Again, right around here with guys like Cam Scatterbo, Bucky Irving's going below him, DeAndre Swift, David Montgomery. So clearly there's a little bit of risk baked into his ADP. I mean, finishing as a top 10 running back last year, you would think he would probably go a little bit higher than he's going right now. Being 27 years old, still probably got a lot left in the tank. And, someone who can handle a pretty solid workload, right? So I don't know, man. I don't think we're going to see him get 260 attempts. That's probably a little too high, but I think we could still see him get above 1,000 yards, and maybe have a closer to 5-yard average, depending on, again, how this offense looks. But that's best case scenario. We might end up being more realistically closer to 4 yards per carry, maybe 5 to 6 touchdowns on the ground, and sub 1,000 yards, in which case he's probably finishing as a top 18 running back. And you're probably getting him right around where he's going to finish. So I think the floor is baked into his ADP. Again, barring any injuries or anything like that, it couldn't get much worse than that in my mind. So a safe pick where he's going, but does have decent upside, low key, sneaky, decent upside, right? But low likelihood. I think he's just a solid RB2, right? And that's fine where he's going. Would you pick Jadarian Price over Etienne or Tootin? probably not Tootin. I think Tootin might be getting a little too much hype, but I'm just maybe a little too harsh on Tootin, so we'll just take that with a grain of salt. But Jadarian Price, I did see something from camp where Jadarian Price is catching passes, so I might be a little high on Price. I actually kind of like what's happening with Price, and Walt Grizzly's saying he likes Price too. So Jadarian Price is going down here about a round and a half below. I don't think this is his accurate ADP. I think he actually might be going a little bit higher than this. So I probably would, if I were to have this plan, right, to pick up Jadarian Price, I would probably pass ETN up and then just pick Price up the very next round, and not even wait right till the round where Price is quote unquote going. I'd probably reach on Price and just pick him up. Because I'm like I said, the one thing that you could give him a knock for was like, is he going to be utilized in the pass attack? Even if it's like 3 passes a game, something, right? We saw it in camp. He looked incredible. It was an over the shoulder, just dime from Sam Darnold, and he caught it, looked incredible. So that was an encouraging thing to see. And, that is probably something I don't want to take too much stock in, but as far as, just something that we can look forward to and hope to see more of as we get closer to the season. You like what you saw with Price. So yeah. And then Walt Grizzly is saying you drafted him in our mock. Oh, nice. Yeah, you did. That's right. You did. Okay. Now, speaking of mock, I want to get to that mock. So anything else other than maybe Chris Olave that we want to talk about with the Saints?
Yeah, I'm excited for the mock as well. One person that we do have to mention, I would say, is Jordan Tyson, the rookie out of Arizona State.
Yeah, let's talk about him.
He's going to be that second option. I think that'll be a good player for you to cover.
All right, cool. Let's talk about him real quick. Okay, so Jordan Tyson, I got his highlights queued up right here. These rookies are going to kill me or make me a champ. Hey, man, I'm the guy who'll draft a bunch of rookies too, bro. But you just got to know when to draft them and which rookies to draft, But I do love, last year I had Igbuka and Tyler Warren, both rookies that popped off for you, right? In certain instances. So anyways, Jordan Tyson, big body receiver, 6'2", 203, out of Arizona State. Let's take a look at his tape. So already we're seeing a play where he just burns the corner. I guess he hit him with a little bit of a double move. That was pretty nice though. So he's got speed. Nice. Went up and high pointed that. That was pretty solid. He's not jumping off the screen though. What's his 40 time? 4.49. Okay. Pretty fast. Especially for that size. That's solid. Nice. Good concentration. Stayed in bounds. So good balance. Nice little one-handed grab there. That was pretty solid. Slow. All right. Be right back, Rasha. All right, for sure. Yeah. I mean, he's clearly not the fastest guy, but it's about consistency, right? Sometimes you don't need to be the fastest. Sometimes you just need to be the most consistent or the shiftiest. Nice little slant there. Okay. That was a good move. Actually, that was a solid route. Got the corner to step back on that first jab step. End around. Okay. Has to make a big stiff arm there. Makes it. Gets into the end zone. Are you finished a lot of your homework that you needed to do? Hell yeah, Zuthis. All right, well, we're going to crank through the last 2 divisions. We can jump on this mock draft. If you aren't fast, you have to be a good route runner. I don't know much about him, though. Yeah, I don't know much about him either. I'm just kind of going based off what I'm seeing here. And, again, he's not really jumping off the screen to me. Let's see. Where did he get drafted? Was he a 3rd-round guy? No, he was a 1st-round pick. Damn. 8th overall.
Why don't you hit me on Oscar Delp just to start off our conversation?
Oscar Delp.
Damn. Yeah, Jordan Tyson. 1st-round pick. Damn, okay. I mean, he's going up and making a lot of high point plays and coming down with some pretty tough catches. So I think that shows you that at least he's got a great catch radius and is pretty reliable in situations where maybe a play breaks down He has to find an open spot on the field. Tyler Shuck just hucks it up, and here comes Jordan Tyson coming down with it. I actually kind of like the idea of putting him on my team at like the back of drafts as kind of like a flyer, because like, you know, Olave is not going to be able to do it all himself, and I'm not thinking Juwan Johnson is the guy for them on every single play that Chris Olave can't be the main pass catcher, right? So they're going to have someone else on this pass attack. So yeah, Jordan Tyson, man, 8th pick overall, dude. He's looking pretty solid. Let's see where he's going in drafts, though. Wide receiver 41. So he's going down here right next to guys like Michael Wilson, right next to guys like Jacoby Myers, Quentin Johnston. That's kind of high for me, man. That's high. Damn, for a rookie, for a rookie who's the second option on a team that is kind of a question mark in terms of what are they going to do in terms of their pass attack. Is there going to be someone else relevant on this pass attack other than Chris Olave? I don't know. People are clearly high on him and his talent, but am I going to take a pick this high in a draft to go for a rookie who's the second option of a team that's probably going to be like maybe second or third best in their division? Nah, I'm taking Quentin Johnston instead. I mean, Mekhi Lemon's below him. I guess you could say maybe the Saints pass attack is going to be more voluminous than Phillies. I don't know. Do you think Tyson will be the underneath guy when Olave is covered by the CB1? I mean, what we're seeing is a lot of underneath stuff from him, actually. He's working all over the field, to be honest. We've seen some outside stuff from him, some inside stuff from him. But right now, what I'm seeing is a ton of slants, a ton of underneath stuff. So, yeah, I absolutely could see him being their go-to underneath guy, right? Look at this right here. Play action, out of the back, what is that, wheel route? Receiver wheel route? Or did he just play the halfback role there? I think he might have been lined up as a halfback, as a running back. And then nice little downfield action. So he actually seems to, he's basically a big slot guy, but he seems to have versatility. So, you know, like clearly the talent is there. Like no doubt, again, first round pick in the NFL. I understand why people might be super high on him, but this feels a little too high. Wide receiver 41, again, right behind Michael Wilson, who Michael Wilson will probably go above this. I don't think Michael Wilson's going down here with Wandale and Parker Washington and Cortland. I think Michael Wilson will probably see a little bit of a bump as we get closer to the season. But especially with the Marvin Harrison Jr. drama going on, right? Which you can't take too much stock in the Marvin Harrison Jr. drama. I think we got to give him a little bit of grace. You know, it's early in camp still. It's early in camp. But yeah, no, I definitely see why people are high on Jordan Tyson. But again, like I think I'm not going to pick him up this high in drafts. But okay, all right. Let's move on to. I think we covered everybody in the Saints. Juwan Johnson. I'll just go ahead and see where he's going in drafts, just for the sake of. Oh, there he was. Back here, tight end 14 or tight end 16. Back of drafts. Another guy Arizona is ruining, Marvin Harrison Jr. You're probably right, man. You got to have a certain like mentality to stick it out in Arizona or something. I don't know what they're doing out there, but they are kind of ruining guys, it seems. Kyler Murray looked so promising at one point. I don't know what happened there. Is it his fault that it panned out the way it did? You got to put some blame on the organization for sure. Hope for the best with Kyler now that he's in the Vikings land. But yeah, Arizona might be the reason why these players are falling off. You hope he gets traded? I hope he gets out of there too, man. Is Arizona the West Coast Jets? Is Arizona pretty much like the Jets organization or the Jets franchise where just players go to die? You know, you hope Brissett will be better, hopefully. You mean he will? He should. I mean, he was. The thing is, he doesn't have to be quote unquote better. He just has to be as good as he was down the stretch last year, and that offense should be solid, right? He was pretty solid with the offense that he was leading in terms of the volume he was giving to guys like Mike Wilson and Trey McBride and maybe Marvin Harrison Jr. had a couple good games there, but yeah, no. Jacoby Brissett, all he has to do is just continue the momentum from last year, But yeah, to Walt's point, he is a career backup. Remember that Arizona is the state for mining. They're investing in oil and metal. They don't care about football. True. And it's just too hot, man. People don't want to go outside in the summer. Well, I guess technically football season starts like towards the end of summer and then it starts cooling off. But like still, it can be brutal hot out there, man. And they have an outdoor stadium. And anyways, but Juwan Johnson, I guess you could take a flyer on him. You could take a flyer on him in this spot and be fine. His main thing that we talked about was his volume and the fact that he gets great yardage. His touchdown percentage, though, not great. He does not seem to get touchdowns. In fact, I want to say his best year with touchdowns was 2022, where he had 7. And every other year, he barely got more than 4. Right? So I forget who was even quarterbacking for New Orleans at this point. Maybe it was like... Who was it? I'm blanking on who the quarterback was, but it doesn't matter. It was someone who was able to get touchdowns to Juwan Johnson. Do we think Tyler Shuck is going to be able to start throwing touchdowns to Juwan Johnson? I'm not sure. I'm sure they're going to start utilizing, or they're going to lean on more maybe. Oh, Derek Carr. Thank you. Yes, I think you're right. It was Derek Carr. Yeah. Probably in 2022, which cool. But the point being, are we going to trust Juwan Johnson to get more than 3 touchdowns this year? Again, that's not why you picked him up. If you're going to pick him up and start him, it's really this yardage that he gets. He's solid in terms of that production. So, backup drafts could be worse. If you're punting on tight end, like I like to do, I'm probably going to end up with a guy like Juwan Johnson on my team as maybe even my backup tight end, right? Or someone who I can just stream if I need to. In positive matchups. So, all right, moving on from the New Orleans Saints. Next, Carolina Panthers. I want to speed run through these next 2. Atlanta Falcons should be quick. That's the last team. But Carolina Panthers, I think they surprised a lot of people last year. There's not a lot of news other than their guy Braza. What was his name? Brazel. Oh shit, my cat. Hold on one sec. Oh, it was Andy Dalton and Jameis Winston. Oh, okay. Andy started 14 games and Jameis started 3. Okay, yeah. Either way, there was a quarterback that was able to throw touchdowns at a higher rate than maybe Tyler Shuck, right? But would you pick up Chig Okonkwo over Juwan Johnson? Yes, I would. That's a good question because they do remind me of each other. They're both super athletic guys that get good yardage and just have a bit of a tough touchdown conversion rate, but like when they get volume, not bad. And I know this is last year's numbers when he was on Tennessee, so we got to take these numbers with a grain of salt. But Chig is definitely someone who we've seen in the past be pretty efficient with his usage, right? 10 yards per reception last year, 9.2 yards per reception the year before, 9.8 yards per reception the year before, and then 14.1 yards per reception his first year. Always plays 17 games, so pretty reliable in the health aspect of things. And, do you think he could be someone that is like a Zach Ertz and or Debo red zone threat on Washington? We talked about that last week or maybe 2 weeks ago when we talked about this division. I like Chig Okonkwo, so I would pick him up over Juwan Johnson. Hey, Nico Dobbs just subscribed. What? Hey, dude, appreciate that. Hell yeah, bro. Is that... Oh, Matty Boots just did gifties, bro? Matty Boots, dude. Hey, W's in the chat for Matty Boots. We're gonna see this notification. I just added these notifications, so thanks, Matt, for making sure that they work. I appreciate the test. Maybe we'll change the notification sound. I don't know. That I think it's fun. But thank you so much, Matty Boots. Hell yeah. W for Matty Boots in the chat. Appreciate you, bro. We got Nico Dobbs, Walt got one, Day Player, Buckleberry got one. Nice, dude. Kinda Known got one. Hell yeah, bro. Thank you, Matty Boots. And enjoy, you guys. Now everybody here gets to enjoy ad-free Game Time Tie coverage as God intended. Let's go. All right, so Carolina Panthers. I was talking about the guy who got hurt. I forgot his name already. Let's just say Carolina Panthers news. Brazel. That's who it was. Okay, so they placed Brazel in injury reserve. He's actually not even listed on their depth chart anymore, but he was a guy who they saw flash a little bit in camp. Now he's out with a torn LCL, I believe, right? Either way, season-ending knee injury. So he's cooked. So now it's still going to be Teddy Mack, right? It's still going to be maybe Xavier Legette is now going to have to step up a little more. People are talking about Jalen Coker as a big name to keep an eye on this year. And I think now with this injury to Brazel, who was flashing a little bit, maybe Jalen Coker now has a little bit more, I guess, heat on him or attention now because there are less question marks or less people to potentially take the attention away from Jalen Coker. I will say I'm probably not going to pick him up just because I don't believe that he's going to be that big of a person who pops off in that big of a way, right? In this range, I would probably take a flyer on KC Concepcion instead. If Ricky PJ was not injured, I'd probably take Ricky PJ instead, right? So there are guys that I'm more willing to take over Jalen Coker, but understandably, like, he's going to get some buzz, and because the Brazel situation is, no longer a factor, Coker could be a good guy to take a look at. I would say, even though Xavier Legette is going below him, Xavier Legette has flashed in the past, and when he did get the volume, he was pretty good. It's crazy that they, I guess, his first 2 games of the year where he got volume, he didn't really do well. But then he came back, and then when he did get volume after he maybe missed a couple games, he actually did pretty well with that volume. So Nico Dobbs is saying, I like Coker, but I'm skeptical that he will get the passes. Tet is already taking too much attention there. And so that's part of why I think I'm a little hesitant to pick up anybody not named Teddy Mack, is because it's like, how much volume is there to go around? Also, again, we're seeing here with Xavier Legette's game log from last year, it's just wildly inconsistent. Sure, when he got the volume, he was pretty good with it, but it was almost impossible to determine when that volume was going to happen. Even in matchups where it's plus matchup, sure, you could think that was the time to play him, but at the end of the day, you really had no idea. And I think the same was for Jalen Coker. Maybe he was a little bit more reliable, which is why he's going higher. But, down the stretch, his 3 out of his last 5 games, he scored at least 14 or more fantasy points. But still, it's just going to be hard to really rely on these guys. And so, am I going to pick up a guy named Jalen Coker? Probably not. Again, I'd much rather take a flyer on KC Concepcion, Ricky PJ if he wasn't hurt. Even down here, guys like Brenton Strange, Juwan Jennings. Obviously, Brenton Strange is a tight end. We're going even further down here. I'm just trying to pick up some wide receivers. Jalen McMillan, great example. Jalen McMillan, I 100% would wait and take him in the 15th round than to go for a guy like Jalen Coker, because in this round, I'm probably picking up a Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, or again, I don't want to say Mark Andrews. I had to stop myself from saying Mark Andrews. Coker is a late round bench player, probably later than this for me. But yeah, if you want to pick him up, he's definitely a depth guy. Kind of a handcuff to Teddy Mack, really, if we're talking actual value for him. Could be a spot play here and there, again, depending on a matchup, but not a reliable flex guy week in, week out, right? That's what I'll say. So Teddy Mack, I guess we'll talk about him, and then we can maybe move on, because there's probably not a lot of other guys I would bring up here. But finished the year last year as wide receiver 16. So super solid. Had a little bit of an issue with touchdowns, but when he did score touchdowns, 2 out of the 5 games he scored touchdowns, he was getting multi touchdowns for you. So that's like, I guess, good to see. You couldn't really predict it, but honestly, super awesome. I'm taking him over anything in Cleveland. So you wouldn't even take KC Concepcion, even with like the late round flyer. You'd rather take Coker. Fair. You take Rashid Shaheed instead of Coker. That's fair too. Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, like, you know, you kind of are proving my point that like he's someone you probably would rather take someone else as a late flyer over him. He might have a decent like floor, but I don't think his ceiling is something that's exciting. And also, I don't think even if he does establish himself as sort of some wide receiver 2 option in this role, is he going to be consistent enough on a team that might not be passing enough to sustain 2+ wide receivers or receiving options in this team? That's what I would say. And so, anyways, Teddy Mack is fine where he's going. I don't think there's anything other than just the fact that hopefully you see more consistent games with him, right? That would really put him over the top. But like, you know, he's a solid wide receiver 2. In some cases, I'm sure people who are going running back heavy, running back, you know, pick 1, 2, they're probably going to pick up Teddy Mack as their wide receiver 1 and feel decent about it, right? I would probably not go that route. Hey, what's up, Rasha? You're back? All right, hell yeah. But I understand why people would do that if they went running back first 2 rounds. So anyways, anything about Teddy Mack that you want to bring up, or you're fine where he's going?
Well, yeah, just briefly. I'm fine where Teddy Mack's going. You know, if I can remember correctly, you know, I traded with you last year and ended up with Teddy McMillan. And then what you alluded to, you know, if you do try the robust running back strategy, you know, that's something that I've been kind of doing. You know, usually I'm a wide receiver heavy kind of guy, but yesterday I did a mock and I ended up with Derrick Henry, James Cook, and Javonte Williams. And I ended up with T-Mac as my number 1 wide receiver. I was okay with that.
Nice.
You know, he doesn't have a ridiculously high ceiling, but I do believe just with pure volume alone, and if Bryce Young, you know, has to do those chunk passes, I just hope that Bryce Young can open it up a little bit this year. And he can definitely have low end wide receiver 1 potential.
I like it. I mean, it's someone you're taking a risk on as your wide receiver 1. I think it's a little bit risky in my mind. Again, like, I understand it's fine for some people to do that. That said, he again, if he can just get this consistency a little bit, going a little bit, like, I think hard to find a better value player, right? Because he's going to be in the 4th round, early 4th round, a wide receiver 1 going around wide receiver 2, high caliber wide receiver 2s, right? T. Higgins, Ladd McConkey. Well, hard to say Ladd McConkey's a wide receiver 2, but like, you know, easily could finish as a top 12 guy. So, you know, just get more consistent. And that's pretty much my only knock on him. But the only way I draft Ted McMillan is if I trade for someone else like Carnell Tate, Mike Evans, or T. Higgins. Interesting. So you don't want to draft Teddy Mack, but you would be willing to trade for him in a package deal or something. Okay, I've never really heard that, but I kind of like that though. And then Zuthis is saying you love Ladd McConkey. We talked to him about a little bit. Yeah, I do like where he's going. I think he could easily finish as like a top 12 guy this year. He has a lot of upside for sure. Just like, is that team going to be too run heavy though for Ladd to truly have the volume to finish that high? We'll see. It's possible for sure. So anyways, let's see. Chuba, I think the one thing I'll say about Chuba is he's probably looking behind him. He's probably hearing footsteps, right? He's probably hearing Jonathan Brooks' footsteps, and they're getting louder. And as much as Chuba has had success in the past, last year was not great for him. So 2 years ago, he finished as the RB15. Last year, he finished as the RB38 and played the same amount of games, but had almost half the amount of attempts and like about 80% of that production with that amount of attempts, right? So it might have been a little weird how I said it, but basically my point being is he was less effective on less attempts last year. And I don't know, maybe it was just the fact that he missed a little bit of time, came back, was a little bit hobbled. And also just they were in negative game scripts, so they couldn't really run the ball as much. Like, he was not getting a ton of carries. had one game with 17 carries against the Rams, oddly enough, in week 13. But since that was the second time in the entire season last year where he got up to 17 carries. So it was just, I think it was just a bad game script scenario where every week they have to throw it a bunch, or maybe just like, again, he was hobbled a little bit. I'm not sure. So the point is, I don't trust Chuba really at all. I think this is probably the last year where he'll see any kind of significant fantasy relevance, at least on this team, right? Maybe he gets traded to somewhere else. Maybe he goes to like the Ravens or like the Pittsburgh Steelers or some place like that where he can have like a revitalization of his career, or like rejuvenate himself in his career. But like right now, this is the twilight of Chuba in Carolina. And so do you want to pick up a guy like that who's kind of like phasing out of this offense? You know, best case scenario, he maybe keeps his role, but just isn't super efficient in a lot of instances. Like, that's best case scenario. So worst case scenario is anything below that, right? So yeah, Walt's saying Chuba's at the end of his rope, and I'm inclined to say the same. Like, I think, again, he's hearing Jonathan Brooks' footsteps running up behind him, and as much as we'd like to think that Chuba, again, is young still, 27 years old, you know, has played pretty significant time in the past, and we've seen him produce at a pretty high level in the past, finished as RB15 just 2 years ago, right? Is he still capable of doing that? Maybe. Probably not this year, and probably not here, right? So that's what I'll say about Chuba. I'm avoiding him in most drafts, probably all drafts, to be honest. And if I am picking up anybody on this team, it's going to be Jonathan Brooks. Oops. And Jonathan Brooks is going about 2 to 3 rounds below Chuba currently. So Chuba's going up here as RB30. Jonathan Brooks is going down here as RB39. I would much rather just wait. Pass up on Chuba. Pick up somebody else up here. Maybe like Rico Dowdle, even a Tony Pollard. You know, if I'm going RJ Harvey for sure, right? If I'm going wide receiver, it's Quentin Johnston. It's maybe even a Michael Pittman up here, or Parker Washington, right? If I miss out on those guys, then maybe I'm picking up like a Sam Laporta, literally anybody over Chuba Hubbard. Like, I'm just naming guys not Chuba Hubbard in this range, and I would much rather pick those guys up, right? So, but yeah, Jonathan Brooks is going way too low here. I think he's actually going to get picked up a little higher than where we see him going now. But yeah, that they'll probably flip, honestly. By the time we draft in September, we'll probably see Jonathan Brooks going above Chuba. That would not surprise me in any way. Yeah, don't make Matty Boots is saying, don't make my mistake of running the Chuba mile. Oh, I won't, man. I saw how bad that was last year, brother. Don't worry, I won't make that mistake. Zuthis is saying, I was lucky enough to get Dowdle when Chuba went down last year. Nice. Yeah, and if we look at Dowdle's stats, when Chuba went down, he took over the role, but then, like, dude, he didn't look back. Actually, so we were talking about, oh, maybe it was negative game script, whatever. Dude, no. These are games where Rico's getting 25 carries. Chuba got like 4. You know what I mean? And so Rico just never looked back, actually, and clearly looked like the better back last year. Down the stretch, maybe it was a different story. I don't know what was going on there with the volume, but, like, you know, it's just funny to see these numbers side by side. Just utterly insane how Chuba just got kind of sunned last year. And again, you could have made the argument that it was probably the injury that was hobbling him, sure, but still, it was just a completely different story. But yeah, no, if you got Dowdle last year, you were stoked for a pretty significant stretch there. But so anyways, we covered pretty much everybody. I don't even think Tommy Tremble's worth mentioning, so I'm just not even going to bring him up. But that's the Carolina Panthers. Any other last minute things before we move on and try to quickly speed run the Atlanta Falcons before this draft? Because I do want to do a mock draft. What do you think?
No, Ty, you got it going on. You're cooking. I pretty much echo all of your sentiments.
Let's do it. All right, cool, bro. All right. Now moving on to the final team of the NFC South, the Atlanta Falcons. And there are a couple big stories coming out. I think the biggest one being obviously the Bijan Robinson holdout or the absence there. I don't think they've categorized it as an official holdout yet. Maybe he hasn't called it a holdout or anything, but he's not there and camp's already in full effect. So will he show up maybe over the weekend or next week potentially? We'll see. I know he's, at least it's been talked about that he's looking for a deal, him and Jahmyr Gibbs. So let's just maybe take a look at that news real quick. But Zuthis is saying, how do we feel about Tua having a back injury and the QB being Cooper Rush? I'll say this. Tua's back injury may be less scary than it might be to some other folks. I think we're far enough out from the season that, like, because we saw this come up with Matt Stafford last year, right? Literally almost the exact same time of year. And Tua's younger than Stafford, where, back tightness and blah, blah, blah. And is Matt Stafford going to miss time? You know, none of that was even a factor. So I'm not saying that's what happens with Tua, but I'm less concerned about the back being an issue. Obviously, as we get closer to the season and maybe if Tua like misses more time within the next week or two, then I would start getting concerned. But as of now, I think I'm going to just stay a little, on the side of, okay, they're just being precautious and taking the necessary steps to not overdo it with their quarterback who's experiencing a little bit of back tightness. And, who's a guy who's 28 years old and has maybe had some, like, at least when we say injury issues, like concussion situations, but that's not related to the back. So obviously I'm not worried about it. But the one thing that I do want to talk about first, right, is Bijan Robinson. So real quick, Rasha, what do you think? What's your like initial take on this contract situation? Do you think they're going to pay him? They probably should, right? It's just like, I think we were talking about this earlier. It should be a no-brainer to pay these guys. And in fact, I'm a little upset that...
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
It's not something.
Oh, shit.
It's a matter of negotiation.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. I think you're turning into a robot. Oh, shit. Rosh, are you there? Damn.
Man, can you?
Yeah, we can kind of hear you now. All right. But when you just holler when you're back because it's still cutting out. But this is what I'll say. It looks like the current contract status is that fifth-year option on Robinson's contract is keeping him under the team control for 2 more seasons. Despite the security, Robinson has chosen to attend training camp but refrained from practicing. Oh, so he's actually technically attending? Yeah, Rosh is in a tunnel right now. So he's technically attending camp. He's just not practicing. Okay, so let's see if there's any kind of news, though. All right.
Ty, if you can hear me better now.
Yeah, I can hear you now. I can hear you now.
Uh,
Yeah, hit us up. What's good?
Just really quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I'm not. This is not something I'm overly concerned about. This is obviously one of the best running backs in the league. I mean, if the Falcons have any hope, they're going to have Bijan on the field. So I think it's just a matter of when, not if, he's going to get that big time contract.
Right.
I just hope it's sooner rather than later, so he doesn't miss too much practice and training camp time. Because the last thing you want is to draft him high at the 101, 102, and he starts the season slowly, or even worse, ends up getting injured because he's.
And I think because you cut out there, what you're about to say is you hope he doesn't they get his contract signed sooner rather than later. So because the later a player gets into rhythm and the later a player sort of starts the whole process of getting football ready, the more likely they are to get injured if they're thrust into game speed action like right off the rip, right? So unless he's getting at least a little bit of training camp time leading up to the season, or even like a couple series in like a preseason setting, you're right. Like there is a chance that if he's coming straight off of like holding out right into the season, there is a higher likelihood of injury happening for sure, right? So I totally agree with you there. I think, the sooner they can sign him, the better. Like you said, the question is, isn't, are they going to sign him? I think it's an obvious, it's obvious to anybody who knows who Bijan Robinson is and how much he means to this team that they're going to have to sign him regardless. But the fact is, he's clearly not happy with whatever number they may have quoted him or whatever. Oh, Nico Dobbs saying he found the light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah, he had a little bit of light and then he went into another tunnel. But no, I think we'll put a pin in this because I do want to not put too much stock into it right now. It's still so early, but if there are rumblings, obviously this soon or this early in the training camp, time frame, this is when these conversations begin, right? We're seeing it with Jahmyr Gibbs as well. So, we'll see what happens by next week. If we're having this conversation a week from now, then I'm going to start getting a little concerned. But I think this is going to happen, or I think a resolution is going to happen sooner rather than later here. Cool. So we talked about Tua. We talked about Bijan. He'll be fine. Drake London, worth talking about quickly. And then we'll start this mock. I know folks are waiting for this mock, so we're almost there. Drake London going as wide receiver 7. I think it's fine as long as Tua's the guy. But if Tua's not the guy, right, if for whatever reason this back thing is a problem or maybe something else starts to crop up with Tua's health and his availability, then I think I'm taking Drake London easily a round later, right? I might even look at guys like Chris Olave over Drake London at that point, maybe even Devonta Smith, but that actually, might start getting into the weeds a little bit. But yeah, I would say that's probably. Oh, you got to go eat? All right, for sure, Nico. All right, we'll see you later, bro. Thanks for tuning in. And then, so yeah, that's my take on Drake London, Jahan Dotson, Olamide Zaccheaus. I think those two guys are guys that on any given Sunday could probably be a DFS darling and be a slate breaker. But as far as fantasy, season long fantasy, you're not really wanting any of these dudes on your team unless something changes and we see this team be super high caliber and we're seeing Tua look like the Tua from 2023 or something where he was literally an MVP candidate for most of that year or at least half of that year with what he was doing with both Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle that year, right? So if we see that kind of Tua, then maybe we see either Jahan Dotson or Olamide Zaccheaus become sort of that Jalen Waddle type figure in this offense. But it's probably more than likely that Kyle Pitts will be the second option in this offense. And so that's just what I would project in terms of pass catchers in this attack. But Kyle Pitts, let's see where he's going. He's going all the way up here at tight end 7, finished as the tight end 2 last year. But again, we talked about why that was, largely due to his insane finish, which included a week 15 45.6 performance and was pretty good for you, honestly, most of the year outside of 6 games, maybe 7, which includes the fantasy playoffs or the fantasy championships. Unfortunately, he actually burned a lot of people in week 17, but it was the Rams. And so you probably had an option to plug and play for him that week if you knew what the Rams were against tight ends last year and just against fantasy offenses in general, right? So, but he's going way up here at tight end 7. I am not a Pitts guy, but damn it, I respect those who are. If you're going to be going out and grabbing Pitts up here around guys like Michael Pittman, Parker Washington, Cortland Sutton, even guys like Michael Wilson, I'd probably pick up over Kyle Pitts. If you're the guy or the guy or gal who goes and gets Kyle Pitts in this range, respect. I pray for you. I hope the best, honestly. I want to see him perform above where his ADP is. Because, technically this is still a discount when we're talking about what Kyle Pitts' ceiling could be, right? But I think there's just a little bit too much that we have to see from him, or at least maybe we're expecting too much from him at this particular draft capital, where maybe if he slides around, I'd be willing to pick him up, sure. But I'm just not a Kyle Pitts guy, and I'm just not a tight end guy anyways in this sort of part of the draft, right? I could be wrong on that, and I'm fine to be wrong on that, right? I'm willing to be wrong on Kyle Pitts, but I think you're drafting him right around where his middle level outcome is. He absolutely could have the floor go, fall out from under him. I think that's definitely a possibility. But he easily could perform higher than where he's going. So I understand the hype, right? When he's good, he's great. So yeah, hey, what's up, Zuthis? You had an ad break? Bro, you didn't get one of the gifties that Matt dropped? Dude, that's okay. That sucks. We're going to have to figure that out. I don't know why Zuthis didn't get a gifty, but we'll have to rectify that somehow. But okay, let's do it. The time has come where we are now going to do a mock draft on stream. So let me go ahead and do a mock draft. I'm going to go ahead and complete one, or create one. And I'll let you guys choose where you want to. Let's see. Copy link. I'll let you guys choose where you want to draft from, and then I'll take whatever's left over. So I'm going to go ahead and drop this in the chat. Feel free to pick up whatever seat you like. And let me just make sure I have it in the correct settings. Perfect. Okay, update. We're good to go. So, all right. Go ahead and join up. Zuthis says he wants pick 9 or 10. That's pretty solid. Nico Dobbs is pick 1. Matty Booz, where you at, bruh? You gonna draft with us this time? Let's see, let me actually make sure this is not cut off, because I remember last time it was like weird. There we go. All right, cool. Rasha's pick 7. Okay, cool. I'm probably going to go ahead and take pick 4. Right before Walt. We'll see how this goes. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of pick sniping involved. Either he's going to grab guys I want, or I'm going to get guys he wants somehow. All right, Zoo, this is going pick 10. And we'll see if we can get 1 or 2 more people in here. If not, we'll go ahead and start it. You just picked a random number? Okay, nice. Yeah. I usually mock in like the middle to later rounds. And for whatever reason, like I don't even end up getting like high round picks in my leagues for some reason. And a lot of that is just by random. I always end up picking up or getting placed in the back ends of drafts anyways. It's strange. I'm not mad at it because I actually prefer that, but it's just funny that that's kind of been my MO. But all right, let's do this. All right, we're gonna start the draft. Yeah, I mean it matters more in the earlier rounds for sure. All right, cool. Nico Dobbs is on the clock. Let's go, Nico. Oh shit, let me turn this off. All right, Gibbs goes number 1, Beach number 2, Jamar Chase. Damn, I was hoping maybe Jamar would slip to me, but he didn't. So now I have the tough choice of passing up guys like Puka, like Christian McCaffrey, like Jackson Smith and Jigba, like Jonathan Taylor, to go pick up a guy named Amon-Ra St. Brown, 4th pick overall. Sounds crazy to some, might be to a lot. And to me, it's just another Friday because, this is what we do. But then goes Jackson Smith and Jigba to Walt and then CMC. So Walt actually passed up on CMC to pick up Jackson Smith and Jigba, which should tell you a little bit from a 49ers fan of how much maybe people are a little hesitant on the CMC situation, right? Maybe we don't believe that he's like really worth a 1st round pick, even though he finished. And yeah, we're defeating all the homer allegations for sure. But yeah, it's a fair call out though. So we saw Puka go, Jonathan Taylor, CeeDee Lamb, James Cook goes to Zuthez at pick 10. I like that a lot, actually. And then on the turn, we came back. He saw A.J. Brown go to Zuthez. And then Rasha picked up Chase Brown. Nice. And then we saw Walt get Omarion Hampton for the second draft in a row. CMC does look good. And I'm not saying he's going to be awful. But I think the risk still is why people aren't picking him up like a lock for, the top 3 or 4 picks, right? Where he potentially should go. If he does what he did again last year. So right now, I have a wide receiver. I'm on Russ St. Brown. I want to probably get a running back. And so unless, I decide to do something kooky, like just straight up go Nico Ballins right here. Back-to-back wide receivers. I actually like both of these guys, so I'm kind of happy that I ended up with both of them. And again, Nico, I think I was talking about this in our last mock draft. I think Nico Collins could easily finish as like a top 6, top 5 guy. Obviously all things have to be going his way in that outlook, but like I think it's possible, man. He's just a baller. So anyways, looks like Kenneth Walker goes, then Brock Bowers, Derrick Henry, Javonte Williams. So these are guys I was actually looking at in terms of Derrick Henry and or Javonte Williams as people I could pick up as my running back 1 if they made it back to me. But I was totally prepared for that to be the case where they didn't make it back to me. So now I'm left over with guys like Josh Jacobs, Kyren Williams, Breece Hall, Bucky Irving. These are dudes who now I have to rely on as my RB1 situation. And I think what I'm going to do is just go Josh Jacobs and just lock that in. Solid RB1 that you're getting in the 3rd round. I think part of the reason why he's going this low currently is because there might still be questions about if he gets suspended because of what happened during the offseason. I don't think the NFL has made any kind of determination yet, so that could be why people are a little hesitant currently. But the second there's any kind of news where Josh Jacobs is cleared or otherwise, right, then obviously we'll see his ADP affected because of that. But if he's cleared, I think he goes in the 2nd round. So I'm basically getting a 3rd or 2nd round guy for a 3rd round price, which, not a huge discount, but still not a bad RB1. You could do worse. So we saw Rasha pick up Josh Allen. Nice. Okay, Walt goes Chris Olave after me, so that's pretty solid. So now Walt has 2 wide receivers. Zuthez now picked up his 3rd wide receiver with Devontae Smith. We actually saw him pick up Ladd McConkey earlier, so nice. He went A.J. Brown, Ladd McConkey, Devontae Smith. I like that, actually. So you're building really good receiver depth. In fact, your receiving core is pretty solid. I want to say the best that I'm currently seeing. And now Walt's on the clock. And there goes TreVeyon Henderson. So somebody who I was looking at, I've been talking about him. I definitely like him. Someone who I target in right around this time frame in drafts. Goes right before me. So, hey, good on you, Walt, for grabbing him. Now I'm probably going to have to scramble for some more running back depth. But I'm looking at running backs. And right now, there are dudes that I think will still be around after the turn. So I'm going to go another wide receiver here. Or I'll just go something crazy and just go Tyler Warren. Fuck it. We ball. Tyler Warren's going to be a beast. And with Danny Dimes on the trajectory of a positive trajectory with his recovery, I'm thinking Tyler Warren is going to have like a stellar season, hopefully all year long this time, with Danny Dimes, the rapport that they have. And honestly, everything I see out of camp from Indianapolis is just like, Danny Dimes and Tyler Warren. Maybe that's just my algorithm, right? But like, it's been good to see. So I'm happy to pick him up with my 4th pick. Even though I always say I don't pick up tight ends, but that's what I'm doing. So then Mike Evans goes, Jalen Waddle goes. Damn, David Montgomery was the guy that I was looking at. He goes. So I think I might have to go ahead and pick up a DJ Moore. I'm just punting a little bit on running back, seeing what my team looks like, getting myself into this situation where I'm going to be a little worried about my running back depth. But I just, again, if I missed out on David Montgomery, the drop off there was a little too scary for me, and I don't trust Cam Scatterbo, even though that would have been a fine pick. But damn, Jadarian Price actually was the guy I probably should have picked up. I think I distracted myself talking about I forget what I was talking about, but sick pickup there, Walt. Jadarian Price. Travion Henderson in the 4th is too high. That's pretty high. I think the reason why that reach feels a little high to some is because we haven't seen him sort of step into the reliable RB1 role yet, and especially with Ramondre still there, I think the volume is a concern for folks, but I think where Walt picked him up is right around where his ceiling is. So it's just, he's high on him. He wanted his guy. He reached a little bit, but I don't blame him for it. But now the question is, does he quadruple down on running back? Does he shore up his wide receiver depth a little bit? Does he maybe grab a quarterback? Tight end now. We've seen quarterbacks go off the board. We saw Jalen Hurts come off the board for Zuthez. We saw Team 6 pick up Joe Burr right before. This is interesting. But I do like what I just saw with Rasha picking up JMO and then Brian Thomas Jr. in the 6th round. I think Brian Thomas Jr. could be sneaky value because he, again, has round 1 pedigree, right, in terms of NFL draft capital. And then we saw him finish as a top 10 wide receiver, I think top 5 wide receiver in his first year. Last year, different story for sure, but easily could outperform his ADP. And I don't think Parker Washington is like someone I'm so scared of taking this job away from Brian Thomas Jr., right? So let's see. RJ Harvey sitting there looking at me, and I'm like, dude, thank you so much for being there because I needed another running back. I was looking a little desperate on that front. RJ Harvey, definitely someone I believe in and great value in this round, to be honest, because J.K. Dobbins is not someone who I think is going to be, even if he's listed on the depth chart as the starting running back, I don't think he's that in any form or fashion this year, even from the jump, right? So, okay, Herbert went. I like that. Then Laporta. We saw Hubbard come off the board and then Odunze. Now I'm still in the market for more running back depth and or wide receiver depth. So I'm looking down here. I see Tucker Kraft. Fuck it. Jalen Warren, nope. Mekhi Lemon, nope. Cortland Sutton is interesting. And then there's Michael Wilson, who I think I'm just going to go Michael Wilson because if I didn't have RJ Harvey already, I probably would have gone Michael Wilson. What is Smooth C saying? Do you think Scat should be a 4th round pick instead of a 5th round pick? No, I think a 5th round pick is fair. I honestly think that the only thing that would make Scat a 4th round pick over, like if he was, let's just say you weren't concerned about the injury situation, right? If it was in a vacuum and we were saying Scataboo is fully healthy and we can expect more of what he did last year, I think he's even like a 3rd round pick, right? That's how valuable he can be. So if he stays healthy and is back to himself pretty soon out of the gate, right? I think it'll be a little bit of a slow start for him, but once he does get his legs back under him, then he's for sure, again, performing at like that 3rd round value level. So you're essentially drafting him at the discount that is baked in because of his injury situation. But as far as his ceiling is, like, yeah, he could easily finish as a 3rd round value, right? I would believe that. So anyways, that said, I'm just not a Scataboo guy. Let me just put it to you that way. Okay, so Zuthez is on the clock now. There goes Rico Dowdle. So now Zuthez is building up his RB depth after starting with really strong wide receivers. Rasha's on the clock. He's also got now some pretty solid RB and wide receiver depth. So maybe we could see something else from him now. He does have a quarterback already. So we'll see where he goes. Okay, more running backs. Kyle Monangai. I like it. Now, Walt and I are both in the market for quarterbacks. That said, this is going to be a crucial round for both of us, I think, whether we decide to continue to get depth or if we decide to get quarterbacks. I think this is going to be, and I don't want to put any ideas in his head, but yeah. Let's see. But I do like Nico Dobbs' team. 3 back-to-back running backs to start his draft. So Gibbs, Henry, Williams. So super solid running back core there. Then you got Igbuka and Evans. Funny that they're previous teammates as your wide receivers. And then you followed it up with Herbert and then Laporta. So you are a little light on wide receiver. I'm sure you'll fix that shortly. But I'm obviously in the market for pretty much anything, right? Probably a running back, if I'm being honest. I do want to try to get some more running back depth. But there's not a lot of running backs that I'm looking at right now that I want to go and grab. So I'm going to just get more wide receiver depth. And I've been talking him up. I like Quentin Johnston. Again, someone I don't need to rely on just yet, but is a super solid depth piece for my wide receiving core. And in fact, if any of these guys on my bench like are going off in a way that warrants me getting some value out of trading them, then 100% I am more than happy to trade them, because again, I've got 5 wide receivers. All of these guys, in my opinion, right now, starter caliber guys, right? So just, it sounds crazy to think that I picked up 5 starter worthy wide receivers, but I like to have my depth. And I also, again, am not mad at potentially trading one of these guys. So let's see. I'm still in the market for like a quarterback potentially. I like Trevor Lawrence. Fuck it. Round 9 Trevor Lawrence. I'll pick him up. Seems like a no-brainer, honestly. Someone who can easily finish as a top 10 guy. Probably will end up finishing as like a top 7 if all goes his way. And in a part of his career where like he needs to essentially nut up or shut up, essentially, like he got paid. So it's not even a matter of do you need to make it yourself known that you are worthy of being paid. No, he clearly already got his contract. Now it's like, dude, you got to start winning when it counts, right? We're talking postseason, right? We're talking winning your division consistently, right? He's the highest paid quarterback in that division. So it's like he's going to have to start showing people that he's worthy of that contract. Right. Again, winning games when it matters most. So I think he's due for a big year. I think that team is due for a potential big year. I know why people are high on like Bashal Tutin and Parker Washington, right? But again, don't forget about Brian Thomas Jr. and Brenton Strange could be a sneaky pickup for some folks as a tight end, right? Which I don't think he's been sniped yet. So. But okay, Zuthis, what did Zuthis do? Zuthis grabbed Isaiah Likely down here as your tight end 1. So that's good, actually. I think that's actually a nice little sneaky value play. Let's see. Walt is now on the clock. Rasha went Jaden Reed. Interesting. After picking up Travis Kelce. Okay, not bad. We're gonna, I think it's funny because I didn't end up auto picking Lamar Jackson this time, but I did do something kooky with the Tyler Warren pick in the 4th round. But we're gonna see how this pans out. Oh, dude, Jonathan Brooks was right there for me. Maybe I should have grabbed him instead of Trevor Lawrence. I didn't think he was gonna get sniped right there, but solid. And then Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt also is gone. So now this is where I'm looking like I'm getting myself in a little bit of trouble with this draft strategy, right? Where I'm only going 2 RBs and I'm literally foregoing any kind of running back depth. It's getting me in trouble. So let's see what other value I can sort of siphon out of these next few rounds that makes it worth me foregoing running back depth in the way that I did. Because Jonathan Brooks going right there kind of like throws my entire draft strategy out of whack. But I won't blame it too much on that because I should have planned for this. But I will probably grab a Tyler Algier as sort of a, someone who potentially could be a flex-worthy person if, for whatever reason, things don't pan out with Jeremiah Love, which, I'm not saying that they won't, but Tyler Algier, I mean, we saw it with Bijan. He's just a guy who just will vulture touchdowns. So he's just a depth piece at this point. And sure, we might share a name, but I might be stacking up a little too many Tylers than I need. But I I just needed depth there. So next, I will go ahead and grab. Let's see. I'm not going to dip down here. This is kind of like scary territory. I'm just going to go ahead and grab a backup quarterback, Jared Goff. Just safe. Just a safe backup. I need a backup quarterback. I'm always a guy who has a backup. So even though Trevor Lawrence should be fine as like a week in, week out starter, I think having a Jared Goff on my bench just makes me feel safe. You know, it's just, he's a safety blanket for me. So we'll see. We'll see if there's any running backs as we get closer to the end of this draft that are worth grabbing. Again, just making it known, and it's obvious. My running back depth pretty minimal right now. So we'll see what that looks like at the end of this draft. All right. Jalen Higgins goes. Okay, Jaden Higgins goes to Walt. That's not too bad. And then, you know, in these back rounds, like, it's really just flyers and like dart throws and stuff like that. So you can't feel too confident about anybody you pick up back here, but it could be exciting to look at and say, hey, I got a steal on this guy who potentially could end up being like a big shot name if things pan out properly, right? I think we even brought up a guy earlier today who I'm blanking on his name, who fits that kind of scenario. But let's see. Jalen Coker, kind of. There goes Aubrey. There goes Love. There goes Golden. Okay, Golden actually made it all the way down here. All right, Rosh is on the clock. There goes Strange. There goes Rodriguez. Now you can start reaching and just picking up guys really at any draft capital. Right? It's just like, who's your guys? Go get them. There goes Shakir. I'm on the clock now. I do need running backs, man. I do need running backs. That is not a lie. I'm probably going to go... You know what? I'm actually going to go Juwan Johnson. I'm going to go Juwan Johnson. Another tight end. I know we were talking about him earlier today. His whole thing is, can he get in the end zone? If he starts getting in the end zone, he'll be pretty valuable. But, you know, I don't like anybody that I'm seeing down here by way of wide receivers or running backs. So I'm going to just say right now, I'm not in love with this team. I think my first 3 rounds were decent. I think where I went wrong was foregoing running back depth to go Tyler Warren, and definitely missing out on Jadarian Price in my round 5 DJ Moore scoop up. Probably not the best. So both David Montgomery and Jadarian Price were guys that I wanted on my team that I ended up missing out on, right? Okay, so Woody Marks goes, let's see. 3 more picks. Like I said, I need running backs. Emmett Johnson. Probably going to drop him, but he's a rookie. He's on Kansas City. And if anything were to happen to David Montgomery, which, again, this guy's probably a stasher at this point, but would probably end up being the guy to own in that backfield. So it's clearly betting on injury. And it's unfortunate that I didn't get, I guess, Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker is the guy you're betting on getting injured if you're picking up a guy like, Eli Johnson. I forgot his name already. Emmett Johnson. All right, cool. 2 more picks. I think it's pretty straightforward. I'm just going to go kicker and a defense here. But we saw a bunch of defenses go already. Houston Texans went around 11. Broncos, Seahawks also went in 11. Damn, Rams even went up there. Then Eagles went in round 12. Now Patriots, Steelers, Ravens all went in round 14. If you don't get any of these top defenses like Texans, Seahawks, Rams, maybe even Broncos and Eagles could be in that category. Like, I don't think, I'm not stoked about the Ravens. Steelers are okay. Patriots, meh. Vikings, there's not a lot of defenses here. You're going to be streaming a bunch. Chargers are where I'm going to go though here. They're probably the only, I saw Walt go Jags, not too bad. I still like Chargers. I think, they're in a tough division, but you could see them last year and how they flashed a little bit here and there with their fantasy performances that this year, I think if they take any significant step forward, will be worth fielding, right? Last year, a couple games over 13, 12, 15 points here, 13. So, decent moments for the Chargers. All right, I'm on the clock for a kicker. Let's go Evan McFearless, baby. Let's go. Jags were number 4 defense last year in fantasy. Damn, I guess you're right. Number 4. Dude, you're right. Holy shit. Yeah. Had a pretty significant stretch towards the middle of the year. Even the beginning of the year, they were pretty solid. Nice. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, probably because of that division is just easy. All right, let's take a look at folks' teams. How do you like my team, Coach Ty? Let's take a look. All right, Nico Dobbs and Zuthis is saying, yeah, you like your team, Zuthis? Hell yeah. All right, let's take a look real quick. So Nico Dobbs got Gibbs, Henry, Williams. So 3 awesome running backs for your first 3 picks. I think you're in great shape with your running back depth, absolutely. And then you obviously get Gainwell later on as sort of like a depth piece, but already solid 3 starting running backs. I think you're flexing one of those guys each week. It's hard to put any of these guys on your bench. The one thing that I called out in the middle of the draft was your receiver depth. So you got Igbuka and Mike Evans. Great first 2 options. I'm not mad at that for round 4, round 5 pickups for both of those guys. And the value that gives you with they're definitely going to perform, at least Evans in my mind, for sure. It's a no-brainer. He'll perform over his ADP. Igbuka, probably a little bit tougher for him to outperform that ADP. We were talking about it earlier when we were looking at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We're a little worried about maybe just the workload or can he perform against the cornerback 1 treatment. If he can, then I think he's a steal where he's going here. And the stretch that we saw last year when he came out of the gate swinging as a rookie, awesome to see. You hope he can get back to that, right? Then you go Justin Herbert, then you go Laporta, then you go Patrick Mahomes. So, and I just want to bring up that you also have Baker Mayfield down here in the 12th. So you have 3 quarterbacks on your team, 2 of which you grabbed within 2 rounds from one another. Now, I think I might have done that as well with Trevor Lawrence and Jared Goff on my team a couple rounds later. But I still went and grabbed a couple other wide receiver and running back options. Maybe not running backs, but wide receiver options for myself. So it's funny. You and I have the opposite problem. My wide receiver room, I feel very confident about, but my running backs, I'm a little worried about. Your running back room, super confident in. Your wide receivers, I'm a little skeptical in, right? Especially when you get down to guys like Josh Downs, Xavier Worthy, and then Jalen Coker's not a bad guy to actually stash on the back of your bench. In fact, I think he might end up being sort of your de facto wide receiver 3 over Josh Downs and Xavier Worthy when all is said and done. But that said, I think your team, I'll give it a B+, right? Again, super solid running back depth. I think your quarterbacks are solid in terms of Herbert and Mahomes as your top 2 options. Baker Mayfield was just I know you like him. And so maybe that was just I got to get my dog on my team. But to be honest, if this was a real fantasy team, you'd probably be wanting to trade any one of these guys off your team for maybe some wide receiver depth or something like that, realistically, right? I wouldn't want to have 3 quarterbacks on my team in any scenario, unless I'm in like a 2 quarterback, super flex league or whatever, right? So, but B+ isn't bad. B+ isn't bad, man. I'll give you a B+ for sure. Let's take a look at Zuthiz next. So Zuthiz, you say you really like your team. Again, when you picked up your first 4 options, I was like, damn, I kind of like your team as well. And then you followed up with Judkins in round 5 after going James Cook, AJ Brown, Lab McConkey, Devonta Smith. Then you went Jalen Hurts to get that Jalen Hurts, Devonta Smith stack. And then you got J.K. Dobbins as some depth piece, running back depth. And then Rico Dowdle as some more running back depth after that. So not terrible, right? Actually, solid depth, and you spread out your depth pretty evenly throughout the first 9 rounds, I'd say. So you finish 9 rounds, you have your quarterback, and you have 4 running backs and 4 wide receivers each. So ideal in terms of roster construction. Then you get Isaiah Likely in round 10 after you get Wan'Dale in round 9, right? Denver Broncos as your defense, solid. You got Brandon Aubrey as your kicker, pretty good. And then Kyler Murray as your backup quarterback. Honestly, not bad. Like round 13, you passed up all these guys like Bo Nix and Jared Goff and Baker Mayfield and Malik Willis, which is hilarious that he went, but Cam Ward and Jared Love again, Jordan Love. And Kyler Murray was sitting right there in round 13 for you. Not bad. If he pans out at all with guys like Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison on that team, like that actually could be a pretty awesome scenario for Kyler Murray, right? So I like that. And then Steelers, and then Hawkinson is sort of a backup tight end who could end up being a solid stack with Kyler Murray. So honestly, savvy drafting. I'm impressed with this. Savvy drafting for sure. You waited on tight end. You got a backup tight end here just in case Isaiah Likely doesn't pan out. And Kyler Murray was a pretty sick pickup in round 13. I think my biggest knock for you, because I'll give you probably like an A-, my biggest knock for you is that, maybe Dobbins was probably a little bit of a misstep up here, just because you could have probably ended up grabbing guys like maybe Pollard or Dowdle or Monangai. But honestly, no, like Dobbins should still technically be a starter in the NFL, right? Like Sean Payton's going to give Dobbins a role. So even though I'm high on RJ Harvey and I picked him up 2 rounds above Dobbins, or maybe a round and a half, I still think Dobbins should have a role here and could be easily flexible. And, if something were to happen to Judkins or he doesn't get off to a hot start, Dobbins could easily be someone who gets you to your next guy, whether it's Dowdle or someone off the waiver wire who you need to, potentially rely on later on in the season. And yeah, I mean, that's how it panned out last year. Dobbins was the starter over Harvey, and it was only a matter of Harvey getting the role when Dobbins went down that we saw that kind of flip. So for sure, Dobbins, again, Sean Payton is someone who he'll give the veteran back the primary carries just to start off, right? And then we may see if Harvey is the hot hand, we might see that change a little bit later on in the year. But like for the first maybe month of the season, I could say Dobbins, I could see him being sort of the back to own in this backfield, or at least like having the starter role in like sort of an NFL aspect, right? You're just not the highest on your tight end. I really like the rest of your team. I was also very focused on bye weeks. Oh, interesting. Okay. So yeah, I see the bye thing being a problem in some instances, but I don't put too much stock in it maybe as other folks do. You just, again, for things like your tight end or your wide receiver, your quarterbacks, obviously make sure like your backup tight end or your backup quarterback doesn't have the same bye as your starter, right? Like if Kyler Murray and Jalen Hurts have the same bye week, that doesn't help you, right? Similarly with Hawkinson and Likely. But I think Likely could easily outperform his ADP. He's got the talent. We've seen him do it before, right? So, and then Hawkinson, same, right? Got talent. We've seen him do it before. So you're getting these guys essentially for free. So I wouldn't be too mad at that. Sure, that like is maybe your biggest deficiency is tight end, but like if that's your biggest deficiency is tight end and every other category your team looks pretty solid, I think you're feeling good about that, right? That's usually how I end up with my roster constructions anyways. So, all right, let's take a look at Rosh's team. Puka round 1, solid. Chase Brown round 2, super solid. Then it's Josh Allen, Travis Etienne or ETN, I'm not sure which to say there. Then you got my boy Jamo Williams and Brian Thomas Jr. So I love your first 6 rounds, actually. Like, a lot of savvy drafting. Like, you went for the high caliber quarterback, but then you still got solid wide receiver and running back depth. And then you still continue to go running back depth round 7, round 8 with Ramondre Stevenson and Kyle Monangai. Both pretty solid guys, right? And then Travis Kelce, someone who could easily outperform that ADP if he decides to show up in any kind of meaningful way. But 3 rounds later, you did get Brenton Strange as sort of like a safety option just in case if Travis Kelce doesn't pan out for you. So I think that was savvy as well. And oh, you were saying that was why you were confused that Murray was still available? Yeah. I mean, again, like, people are really low on Murray. I am as well. I think, again, he could easily outperform his ADP, sure, in the best case scenario. The only reason why I'm so low on him is just because I have to see it first. I'm just not a Kyler Murray believer, but I wouldn't mind picking him up as my backup, right? As like a flyer in the 13th, 12th, 13th, 14th round. Someone who could easily outperform his ADP if all goes, well for him and pans out in the way we hope. So I think that was solid. Jordan Mason round 11, then Strange round 12, Fairbairn, and then running back out of Tennessee, Singleton. I think he's a rookie, right? Is this guy a rookie? Yeah, he's a rookie. So could be a nice little sneaky dart throw. And then you went with your boys, round 15. Not bad, dude. Not bad. I would give your draft a B+ as well. I love your depth here. I think the reason why I'm giving it a little bit of a knock is because you just, even though you have Josh Allen, you don't have a backup quarterback. And then also, like, you might have went a little too hard with some of the running back depth. Like Jordan Mason, I think you probably could have gone someone like Jared Goff or something. Or maybe, like a Jordan Love or Baker Mayfield or somebody like that. To be your backup quarterback. But other than that, you could easily find somebody off the wire. Like, I'm sure Tyler Shuck's available on the wire. I'm sure there's going to be tons of options for you, right? There's always a couple that end up on the wire that are viable backups if you were to need it. But Josh Allen, again, is like a startable guy every single week. So if you could do a draft like this in real life at 10th pick, you'd be super happy. It's doable, man. It's super doable. I mean, you're making really solid picks in this position. So I think it's super doable, right? And then let's wrap it up with Walt's team, my team. I think I talked about Walt's team already, right? Didn't I? Maybe not. Jackson Smith-Njigba, Hampton, Olave, Trayvon Henderson, Jadarian Price, sick pickup. I actually was kind of mad I didn't pick him up there. I was kind of kicking myself I didn't. Then you went Kyle Pitts, interesting. And then Sutton, Pittman, Matt Stafford, Jonathan Brooks, Jaden Higgins, Khalil Shakir, Cam Ward, which I love that pick in round 13. Jags defense, pretty solid actually. And then Cam Little. So you got both Jags special teams players. I guess a solid A. Like, there's really not a lot to say about where you're deficient other than maybe tight end. But you could easily pick up a tight end off the waiver wire if Kyle Pitts doesn't pan out. So, I'm sure there's still guys like... I picked up Juwan Johnson, but I'm sure Chig Okonkwo is still available on the waiver wire here. Yeah, I don't see him having been picked up. So you got options, man. Like, if anything, were to happen with Kyle Pitts or he doesn't pan out, again, like, I think you'll be fine. Thank you again for hosting the draft. Yeah, man, it's fun. Like, I need to do these more. I need to do these just for my own knowledge, right? So... it's fun to do these with people that you actually know, and again, just people in general, like, that are real humans on the other end of the drafts of the draft, right? So that you can actually get a perspective on where people are drafting players, because as much as you want to mock draft against computers, like, bots are only going to have so many different variations of how they're going to draft, right? You can't predict what a human is going to do in a real draft. So whether it's reaching for a guy like DJ Moore or reaching for a guy like Tyler Warren or, the Colson Loveland Rasha picking up like Travis Kelce in round 9 or some shit. Like maybe that's actually more reasonable. But either way, like it's good to draft against real people so you can see what maybe someone might do if they're biased in a certain respect, or maybe you'll see a player slide because a lot of people are off them for whatever reason, right? So yeah, anyways, also bots won't have passion for guys, and they will reach for guys. Yeah, exactly. Passion and guys they will reach for. Exactly. Pretty much what I was trying to say. You said it better. But all right, you feel like Pitts and Tua loves throwing. You feel good with Pitts because Tua loves throwing to tight ends in the end zone. We did see that with what's that guy's name? Was it Njoku? I think yeah, it was Njoku, right, for a little bit. And then there was even another guy I want to say when Njoku went down, who was a tight end. I don't think it was Gesicki. Maybe it was after him. But yeah, Darren Waller. Thank you. Yes, Darren Waller. We saw Darren Waller for a little bit of a stretch. Yes. With Tua, and so absolutely Tua does target his tight ends in the red zone, so we could see a lot of that. We could see Kyle Pitts having averaging like 0.7 touchdowns a game. That would be solid for him, right? So yeah, but all right, guys. Well, we did it, man. We almost got to 3 hours. We did a mock draft. We got through the NFC South. It's Friday, so I'm gonna let y'all get to your evenings. But this was a lot of fun. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. As always, Rasha, if you're still there, thank you for your analysis and being on the call as always, man. And yeah, if you get James Cook at 10th pick in any league, I think you're gonna be sitting pretty. So yeah, hey, thank you guys for tuning in. Have a beautiful night as well, Zuthas, and we'll catch y'all next time for sure. As always, appreciate you tuning in. We'll see y'all next time. Signing off. This is Game Time Ty. Happy Friday. And we'll see y'all on Tuesday at 3 p.m. Pacific. Peace. See y'all, Walt. See y'all, Zuthas. See y'all, Nico Dobbs. See you, Rasha. Matty Boots. W's in chat.
Take care of you guys.
Hey, we got Rasha. Yeah, go ahead, Rasha.
Oh yeah, real quick. Yeah, it was a lot of fun, man. You know, I'm really loving these mock drafts. You know, some very savvy drafters here in the community. You know, you guys really gave me a lot of pointers here today. I'm learning as I go as well. So it was a lot of fun.
Hell yeah. That's what it's all about. That's why I love doing this, with y'all. It's a community, even if it's small, it's tight knit, and it's all about just sharing perspectives, learning from one another, and making each other better every single day, right? Like no matter how good we think we are at fantasy football, there's always somewhere to improve, and I love it. So yes, well said, Rasha. And Zuthas is saying take care, Rasha. So yeah, appreciate y'all so much, man. We'll see y'all next time. Iron sharpens iron. That's right, baby. Let's go. All right. Well, we out of here. We'll see y'all next time. Take it easy, y'all. Peace.